This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports. With your distinguished host, Adam.
What was your reaction when you got notified that you were going to be a Hall of Famer? How does that sound to you? Coach O'Leary, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I'm inducted into a number of Hall of Fame.
And Mike.
I don't know if you know this, but I won the 5K race that we did a couple weeks ago.
Now, here are the guys.
Hey guys, it's Adam. We'll get to the regularly scheduled episode of the Sons of UCF in a second, but want to take a few minutes here off the top to discuss the news that broke on Tuesday that frankly broke all of our hearts, and that's the passing of Otis Anderson, a UCF Knight legend and somebody that we all loved and revered. Took too soon from us today, and there's really no words that Mike and I can use to describe this situation. It's just heartbreaking, and throughout the day, checking social media and just trying to follow along, you saw such an outpouring of support for Otis. There were so many people who were posting pictures of themselves with Otis, and it just showed you how much he connected with Knight Nation, how much he cared about people, and just how loved he was at UCF and beyond as well. And there's really no words you can say. It was an absolute gut punch. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his friends, his teammates. It was both great and incredibly sad to see his teammates today on social media. Even some guys went out to the field and paid tribute as well. Just incredibly sad to see that, but also touching to see the bond that those guys have, and to see how much that Otis impacted them. I think it's important to share this with you because just behind the scenes here, Mike and I record our shows on Monday night. So the episode you're about to hear, we recorded before we woke up Tuesday to this terrible news. So there won't be any mention or any talk about Otis during the show, and that's not because we don't want to, or we didn't want to. It's just simply unfortunate that the timing of when we record these things. But the other reality is you're going to hear a 2-hour show that, in retrospect now, feels meaningless because we spent a lot of time talking about things like transfers and who's going to play in a bowl game. And after the news of today, some of that just feels so shallow. But it's obviously what we do around here, and it certainly is really put some things in perspective, I think, for all of us. So if you want a relief, if you want to get away a little bit from the news of today, the next 2 hours will take you through some news and notes, and obviously the Cal game. If you're not ready for that yet, I don't blame you. I'm not sure I am yet either. So go ahead and hit pause here, and we'll be here for you whenever you want to come back. But again, just want to acknowledge off the top, Mike and I are incredibly sad about this news today. And it was just a huge gut punch, and not much I can say. I don't really have the words here as I'm trying to struggle to figure out what to say right now. I don't really have the words or the grace or the wisdom to make this feel better. All we can say is that we love you, Otis. We at Knight Nation mourn for your loss. Gone way too soon. And just incredibly proud to be part of this family of people that don the black and gold, and everybody who cares about Otis. So with that said, we'll take a brief moment of silence here, and then the regularly scheduled episode of the Sons of UCF will be on after that. Well, I don't quite know how we're going to fill a show this week, Mike, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. This is episode number 158 of the Sons of UCF. My name is Adam, and as always, my friend and yours, Mr. UCF Mike, is back for another week. Mike, it's been a week, my friend. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's been one up and down crazy week. We had the thriller on Friday night, winning against the hated Cows to finally take the series lead. Then you get the news on Sunday of Deon Gabriel getting out of here. You get the basketball against Oklahoma, which comes down to the wire. It's been a crazy few days here, and I'm glad I've had a couple days to recoup since then, and now ready to discuss all.
Yeah, I needed a recovery day as well, but we'll get into all that. Obviously, we'll do cows, we'll do picks, we'll do UCF observations. I know it seems like a million years ago, but we did actually beat the Cows 17-13 to take the series lead 7-6 and wrap up the regular season 8-4. We will do all that conversation. We'll go through our categories quickly and talk through all that stuff. Mike, you mentioned basketball with a close one. Oklahoma thought we had that one pulled out, but they were just too much down the stretch. So all that to get to. But before we do all that, again, make sure you follow us on social media. That's at Sons of UCF. Everywhere you do social media type things, make sure you go to our website, twonightsmedia.com. Our live show on Thursday with myself, Mike, who is at UCF Mike1, and Trace, who's at SignPez. We're Thursdays, 8 p.m., Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure you tune in and subscribe to all those things so you can stay up to date with the latest news around UCF, Mike. And this is is this your least favorite time of year? This is the new norm in college football. It is transfer portal season. It is coaching carousel season. It is flip the commit season, Mike. We are officially in that time of year. I imagine this has got to be your least favorite time of the college football calendar.
Of college football, probably yes. Unless we're talking about us getting ready to play in a championship game, which has not been the case for the last 3 years. But unless you're talking about off season after baseball is done and we have the dull summer weeks there. During football season, this is the worst because you got all these bowl projections and nobody knows where it's going and what. And you can just make anything up. Just tell me what the bowl game is. Stop projecting all these things when you don't know actually what's going to happen. That's the worst. Transfer portal now is a new free agency. Kids are coming and going, and that's fine. They're free to do that. Coaches have been doing it forever. So it's a time of uncertainty, but since we do this show, it actually gives us a lot of stuff to talk about. So
it does.
I don't hate it as much as I did before, I guess.
Well, let's start there. So obviously the big news you all have probably heard and know by now, so we're not breaking anything to you. Saturday afternoon, Dylan Gabriel released a tweet or an Instagram post at the same time announcing his intention to, as he put, my time at UCF has come to an end, and he's entering his name into the transfer portal. Mike, the statement was kind of light, not a lot of details, thanked a couple of random people, no coaches or anything like that, said he loved his teammates and his brothers, and he was essentially kind of moving on. So this breaks Saturday afternoon. Again, if you're listening to us, if you read stuff, this probably didn't come to a complete shock to you, but obviously still not news that anyone wanted to hear, Mike. So let me ask you two questions. I'll ask you a two-parter. What did you think when you heard it then? And how has your opinion changed now that you've had 48 hours or so to kind of chew on it?
I wasn't surprised at all when I heard it then because I kind of already talked myself into that it was already happening definitely by Friday. By the time we played our game, when he went out there for the coin toss and he wasn't going to play, after seeing that on our time, the trainers were clearing him to play. He was healthy enough to play. You see him throwing around a 10-pound medicine ball, and he looks like he's ready to throw a football. He's practicing with the team, and yet he's not going to go out there and play with his teammates. And once I saw that, I knew for sure he was gone. I didn't have to have the announcement. When you actually texted me, that's the first word I had of it. I think I was still driving back or had just gotten back home. You sent me that text. I didn't even bother going on the message boards right away. I knew exactly what was happening. He's out of here. Wasn't surprised at all. Now that I've had a couple more days to think about it, it's kind of, I don't know what you want to say, angered me. He's free to do what he wants as a kid. He feels like, let's be honest, he's doing this for a money decision. This is more than anything. This is not him not fitting into Gus's system, because in the first 3 games of this season, he put up just as good numbers, or if not better, than he was doing with Heupel. So I don't believe that line for a second. I think this is more, he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he's going to make more money with his NIL stuff. He sold as many socks as he could to Orlando already. Now he's got a shot to go to another city, sell some more things. To me, it's a selfish move. He's doing what he thinks is best for him in his NFL career. But I think it's the wrong move, and I don't like the way that he treated his teammates. And being a captain on this team, this is not something a captain would do.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of times I'm going to say, and then what happened was, so that comes out. Shortly thereafter, his dad, I'm going to try to go through this chronologically as much as I can. His dad comes out and tells Matt Mearshell, the Orlando Sentinel, basically that they wanted to find a better place suited for him, and that he wants his school better tailored towards the NFL. So those were kind of the reasons, even though Dylan's messaging was kind of vague. And then I guess the inevitable happens, Mike. People start coming out of the woodwork and start sharing some of their inside information, some anecdotes, some of their perspective on some of the things behind the scene. There's a lot to unpack here, and this is going to be tricky for us to discuss because a lot of this stuff is exclusive to what Brandon does in the dungeon at UCFsports.com, the Rivals message board. So I'm not going to quote and steal all the work Brandon did there because it's not our work to steal, and if you want to read it, you can read about it. But I'll give you the high-level gist of it, Mike. And basically, a lot of folks from different areas, and not just Brandon, other people were chiming in, essentially saying a couple of things that were, relatively damning in terms of Deon Gabriel. One, that he'd kind of mentally checked out on the team, wasn't really an active participant, wasn't really supporting the guys. If you need evidence of that, his social media does not have anything UCF season-related. Everything was related to either DG the brand or one of his endorsement deals. There's some thought that his teammates knew he was checked out and were sort of wondering why he was still hanging around. And there's even some chatter that was he really helpful to the young quarterbacks? Was he really giving Mikey a lot of guidance? So a lot of people really kind of brought to light some anecdotes. And again, Brandon has a lot of specifics called out. Hard to tell you what's true, what's not true, Mike. None of us were there. We don't know the situations. But the gist of it all was this was definitely a known thing within the team. And some folks were frustrated at the way he was acting, and then if you want to read the tea leaves, as soon as this comes out, you get a couple guys who got on Instagram and wished him well, but you didn't really hear or see a lot of interesting goodbye sentiment. Now, for us at UCF, the only thing we have to compare this to probably is Mackenzie Milton, which is a way different situation. And I don't know if it's fair to compare those two things, Mike, but really the reports start trickling out. That Deon perhaps wasn't as good a teammate behind the scenes as we thought, and maybe wasn't as involved in this season as we all would have wanted him to be.
Yeah, that's the most disappointing thing. I mean, you're injured, you're not playing for a few weeks, and to hear that you're not supporting a young kid like Mikey Keene the way Mackenzie Milton was supporting you while he was hurt the last couple seasons, that's not cool. And if you really think that you're going to be leaving, and he knew that he was transferring weeks ago, to sit there and pretend to be a captain of this team and only be out for yourself, trying to sell your own merchandise and not saying anything to support the team publicly, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. He knew he was gone. I wish he would have just came out and gone to the transfer portal weeks ago. Is the only reason he didn't do that is because he's getting rehab at UCF and he needs us to take care of that shoulder until he's healthy. And now that he's back to 100%, okay, he's out of here. It just looks bad from every angle.
Yeah, and again, trying to figure out what's true, what's not true, right? There's one thing I can definitely say, and I want to preface this by we didn't see every single solitary moment, right? But when Mackenzie was on the bench, kind of rehabbing that year before he leaves, so essentially the 2020 season, even a better 2019, there was numerous camera shots that would show the two of them sitting next to each other, Casey with the clipboard in his hand with a headset on. There's that one famous one where they both kind of look at the camera at the same time. I could not recall a single time I saw Deon and Mikey filmed or shot next to each other on the bench during a game. Maybe I missed it, Mike, and again, it's not an all-inclusive view. We don't see the camera every single time, but after that was kind of brought out there, it kind of hit me. You really didn't see that. You did not see the two of them huddled. You didn't see Deon in the huddle walking over talking about a different player, things like that. And again, maybe we missed it, and maybe that's an unfair criticism, but that definitely kind of resonated with me. And you're right. A lot of people are kind of saying, why not go the Eric Gilliard route? So Eric Gilliard played his 4 games and then said, hey, you know what? I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. And he was out. Deon obviously did not do that. And to your point, you want to do conspiracy theories? Here's a couple. One, to your point, did he need UCF for rehab, for medical treatment? 2, how much does this relate to DG the brand and what he was trying to do? And I think that's what rubs people the wrong way, Mike, because as late as 2 days before the Cows game, he put a post out there about some of his merchandise that was on sale and still available. 2 days before that, he was at the Oakley store promoting some of his DG stuff. The week before that, he was promoting a Black Friday sale on all of his stuff on his website. So a lot of people are looking at this and saying, hey, well, wait a minute. You know, you knew you were going, and yet you're out here still trying to say things like, merchandise that's exclusively Orlando's, things like that. And so a lot of people, I think, kind of took that really, really hard. And I think that rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah, and it pissed a lot of people off. I mean, people feel ripped off now that they spent money on this stuff. Nobody wants to wear his socks anymore. Nobody wants to wear his jersey or his fanny packs, even though I don't know how many fanny packs he sold. But, I mean, I'd be pissed if I bought any of it, and I'm glad I didn't. But, yeah, I would feel pissed off, robbed, ripped off, whatever the words are, by this kid that was telling you for the last 6 months. You're thinking that he's going to come back at some point this season, healthy for important games on the stretch. From what we're hearing, he was probably healthy enough to play against SMU, which was still a big game at the time, which if we had beat them, we would still have been alive going down to the last week. I mean, all you need Cincinnati to lose a game or two, but you'd still have hope, or Houston to lose. There'd still be a chance for you to get in the conference championship game with like 4 weeks to play. If he's healthy enough for that game, he should be back. He's not healthy enough to play against the rival in the Cows. He should come back and play, and you'd think he'd come back for a bowl game and then get things going back in the right direction for next year, and you're counting on him to be here for another year or maybe even 2 more years. Mm-hmm. So when you buy these things, you're thinking, all right, he's going to be my guy at least for a couple seasons. And now he never plays another game for your team. I'd be very upset if I had bought any of that stuff.
Well, then the plot thickens even more, Mike. So, again, trying to protect what Brandon does and not step on his toes. But there was a poster in the message board dungeon that there's a very heavy conspiracy theory that it's actually Dylan Gabriel's mom. Now, these posts were put up there, and then they were taken down pretty quickly. And, it wasn't autographed. It wasn't signed like it was from her. But there's a really decent conspiracy theory that this was her. And I'll a couple of the quotes that I'll just kind of read through. I don't want to read everything, or I won't say everything. But she mentioned that Gus's offense was not a good fit, that he had an opportunity to go to a P5 school, quote, put up big numbers and get drafted. He probably would have loved to stay if the offense was a fit. He blamed a lot of the losses that Dylan had in his career on the defense specifically. And then basically in a follow-up post where someone kind of responded back to her, said, quote, why would he play in a meaningless pride game against a shitty South Florida team? So essentially kind of takes a knock on the war on I-4. Again, those have since been deleted. While it's a really hot conspiracy theory that this is actually Dylan's mom, not necessarily a confirmation. I don't think anyone's really ready to come out and say that, Mike. But it just goes to show you kind of the line of thinking, I guess, from the entire family. His dad's comments about going someplace else, and then his mom's comments. Clearly, they have a really bad opinion of Gus Malzahn and or Gus Malzahn's offense. And at least in this forum, she didn't appear shy about trying to share that opinion.
Yeah, see, I never got to see any of those posts, and then by the time I heard about them, I heard they were already gone, so I didn't see them. But yeah, that is just bad perspective on this whole thing. To talk about the rivalry game in that way just shows that you're not really in it as a UCF Knight. You never were. If that game doesn't mean something to you, then you're not really one of us, to be honest. Yeah. So that shows you everything you need to know. To blame Malzahn, and this is the kid that took down all his UCF social media stuff the day Malzahn was hired.
Yeah.
That's kind of a childish thing to do in itself. He had to be talked into staying. Now, looking back on it, I wish he would have just left then. I mean, what did we get out of him? Yeah. 2.5 games, 3 games. It seems selfish the way he's acted over this whole season now. And you're hearing stories come out about things that went on during the season and him just trying to promote himself. I don't like any of it.
I'm reminded of a Pat Riley quote, Mike. So, a big Heat fan. And Pat Riley had a quote that you Heat fans out there, JP, Elo, Jason Beatty will remember this one. And this was post LeBron leaving the Heat. Pat Riley said, quote, that he was happy to stop dealing with people that had smiling faces with hidden agendas. And that kind of feels like maybe a little bit about what's happening here is that we all kind of learned at the same time, like maybe what we thought wasn't really true after all. And it kind of came as a tidal wave gut punch, and it was mixed with a lot of emotions, right? Because some people were like, oh, wish him well, it'll be great. Others are like, hey, whoa, are you seeing the things that potentially that he did behind the scenes? Some people are saying, hey, those are rumors. Those are just, people saying things. It's, we don't know that to be true. And all that stuff came together at the same time. And it created a bit of a toxic situation on Twitter, on the message boards, on Instagram. People tagging Dylan, coming after him, coming after his family. It got really toxic in a hurry. And obviously it spills out to outside fan bases, and they start saying, hey, well, look what UCF's doing to Dylan Gabriel. And I think a lot of people, by and large, after it was sort of figured out and determined, I think the sentiment, at least from what I can tell, and I'm curious if you agree, Mike, people weren't mad that he left. They were though mad at what he was doing before he left and the way he treated people prior to his departure. And I think that's kind of where people landed, most people that I saw. Did you have the same sentiment as you kind of went through and tried to read as much as you can, because there was just a ton of stuff out there about it?
Yeah, I think if he had just decided early that this wasn't for him and he wanted to transfer even before the season or right after he got hurt, if he said, I'm going to use my redshirt injury year this year and then I'm going to transfer, I won't be back, it'd be better than doing what he did, dragging us along throughout the season, making us think he's coming back and get healthy again, ready enough to play for the last month now, and then just sit out on his own. Because why? Because the games are meaningless to him. That doesn't sit right with the fan base. So I think that's more of the reason people are mad. Not that he's leaving, but just the way he left. He's supposed to be a captain on this team, a leader, and it turns out he was none of that. Not for his teammates. I'm sure all of his teammates are upset with him too. And you see this guy getting a free ride. And practicing with the team now, taking reps away from the other quarterbacks that do want to play and do want to get out there. Guys like Parker Navarro, that he's not starting, but he's doing anything he can to help this team out. And in the last few games, he's scoring touchdowns for us. So if I'm one of the guys on the team, I'm not happy with him either.
I will say this, that shot of him, I don't know if you saw the shot, I think UCF video put it out, of him coming down the tunnel and he had to put his jersey on really quickly to come out to take the captain's coin toss or whatever. I feel like that shot of him is going to be like the new, Frost in the checkered shirt shot. You know what I mean? That's the video angle that you look at, that if once you see it now, you're like, oh yeah, he was gone. Right. Same thing we saw when Frost showed up wearing that red checkered shirt. We were like, okay, he's gone. And that was kind of the same thing with Dylan hastily throwing his jersey on at the last minute. That's going to be his Scott Frost red checkered shirt moment, Mike. But I've got the official timeline worked out here. All right, so I'm going to lay this timeline out on you. This is my own personal opinion. Again, I have no facts. I've done zero reporting, but I think it's pretty damn accurate, Mike. Here's my timeline of events that I think transpired. Right, here we go. So we know that obviously Heupel wants to. Actually, let me start here. I'm not gonna touch the McKenzie stuff because there's a lot of now things out there about maybe their relationship and why did McKenzie really leave, and did Dylan play a heavier hand in that we thought. I have no idea if any of that stuff's true. If it is, that takes you from being just a bad teammate to almost like a super villain at that point if that stuff's true. So I'll leave that one alone for right now. But so you start the season off right, and he's playing well, whatever. Heupel leaves, and the first thing he does is what? He says, "I want Jeff Lebby." Right, I want Lebby in here. That's my guy. He was not shy about it on social media. A lot of people kind of applauded him for having a voice in it, but he wanted Jeff Lebby, right? And now I think we can read the tea leaves on why. Two reasons. One, he wanted his offense, but two, it seems like Dylan had sort of the run of the football building, perhaps was kind of getting away with certain things, and perhaps he knew that Lebby would allow that same behavior to take place because they already worked together. So he stumps hard for Lebby. Lebby doesn't get it. And like you mentioned, he then takes everything off his social media accounts, and it's all DEFCON 5 for a couple days. Then before you know it, we see a video of him and Gus and Jalen Robinson sitting in the office, and they're talking. And we're like, okay, things are great. In my mind, at that meeting, Dylan listened to what Gus said and probably says to himself, that's it. I'm staying here 1 year. I'm going to play one season under this guy. I'm going to ball out. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to throw another 35 touchdowns, and I'm going to the league. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to stay 1 year, and I'm going to be gone. I'll put up with it. It is what it is. He said he changed some stuff. I'll, whatever. I'll make the best of it. I've got DG the brand coming out. So people forget too. DG the brand actually went back, Mike. He activated that, or him and his brothers or his business partners. That account went live on November 29th, 2020. And a lot of work had already been done, and obviously Dylan couldn't be involved yet because of NIL stuff, but all that back work had been done. So I think he probably didn't want to leave what he was building, had a lot of infrastructure, said, I'll stay here 1 year, I'll make it happen, and it'll be great, right? Season starts, he's playing okay, and then boom, Louisville happens, and he's hurt. And now he's on the sidelines, and now he's like, okay, well, now I'm hurt, now I can't play. And I think that's when he starts thinking to himself, okay, well, what am I going to do now? If I can't even really play, why even bother staying here? But now he knows he probably doesn't have enough stats to be able to go to the NFL. So he's going to have to figure out what to do. I think he then watches us struggle as a team and says, well, wait a minute, I'm going to come back to a team that lost to Navy, that got boat raced by Cincinnati. Like, I'm not even coming back to a good football team. You know, why should I stay here? Is this really the spot for me? So I think his mind is made up probably sometime, Mike, in that early October window, probably right around Cincinnati, maybe shortly thereafter, and says, this is not the place for me. I don't want to play here anymore. And probably makes his mind up at that point in time. Just decides, I'm going to ride it out. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to keep selling my merch, and then waits till the end of the season and then sort of drops the bomb. Like, that's my official timeline on what I really think happened behind the scenes. And now he knows he's got to play one more year because he doesn't have enough tape, and it doesn't have enough on film yet. So he's got to find one more spot to play so he can play his year and potentially go to the league. And so he moves on to try to find that spot, Mike. That is my projected timeline on the Dillon Gabriel fiasco. What do you think?
It's not a bad theory. I can go along with it. I think maybe he wanted to transfer before this season when Malzahn came in and got talked into it, and like you mentioned, he already has his brand set up here and this and that, so maybe that played a factor in it. But I think it's short-sighted or stupid to come into the season thinking that. I think playing under a different offense like Malzahn would have helped him. If he would have played the whole season and showed that he can learn this offense and following up what he did with Heupel, I think that only helps his stock in the NFL. To go back to the same offense that he was comfortable with, which is basically a just throw it deep first offense, first read, throw it deep. And we talked to a lot of the receivers and guys from that offense and that team saying that Heupel's offense was so simple that all it was, it's throw it deep, or first one guy's going deep, or it's the first read, it's a screen out to the side. A very simple offense. I think maybe he was scared to learn a new offense under Malzahn, which would have helped him in the long run. But now he's going to go find maybe a Heupel offense again, or maybe a Jeff Levy, work with one of those guys that he's familiar with, go back and do the same thing. He'll put up some big numbers wherever he goes, I'm sure. I mean, he's got a talented arm. We know he can throw the deep ball, but in the long run, is that going to help him? I don't know if that's a good idea for him. But I think he made up his mind probably shortly after the injury. You're right, probably around that Navy-Cincinnati game.
Yeah, because you had heard, and you were one of the first people out there saying this, even though you were trying to keep it kind of quiet and you weren't trying to put too many fires out there. But you had talked to former quarterback Ryan Schneider, who had shared that he had a similar injury, and he was telling you behind the scenes, like, yeah, it's a 6-week deal. He'll be back by this date. No surgery. He'll be fine. I've had the injury. Yeah, it hurts a little bit, but he'll be good. And when that date kept coming, and we kept thinking, why isn't Dillon playing? Why isn't Dillon playing? Why isn't Dillon playing? I think that's when, to your point, that's when you sort of started to think through, okay, has he taken his last snap at UCF? And I think that obviously ended up bearing out because, again, how much – I guess the other thing, too, think about this for a second. If you once you're removed from a situation and he couldn't play, he wasn't on the field, I think at that point it's easier for you to mentally just be like, okay, well, I'm done here. And whether you want to agree if that's right or wrong, that's fine. But there's obviously different ways to handle that. And clearly by the things that people are saying and a lot of people that are coming out of the woodwork, whatever those decisions he made on how to handle it, clearly rub some people the wrong way and are probably not the way that a lot of us would want our own personal, situations to go, or the way that we would probably handle things ourselves.
Yeah. Schneider texted me as soon as the injury happened, and he said, he should be back by the Temple game. He wanted to bet me that he'd be back for sure by Temple. I should have taken that bet. But, it's a 6 to 8 week injury is what they told us from the beginning, and it would have lined up perfect. He would have been back for Temple, or if he would have waited, even with the bye week, he could have came back for the SMU game and here down the stretch to see what he can do with this team. But his mind was made up. He wasn't coming back. And that's in what I guess they viewed as meaningless games, even though it's a rivalry game, the biggest game of the year for us at the end of the year. No matter what our records are, that's always a big game against South Florida. So I guess I want to say good luck to him, but I don't know if I'd rather just say good riddance. Get out of here. You don't want to be here, and then don't be here. There's plenty of kids that want to play quarterback at our school. So he's gone. Nothing else to say about him. I don't know. get rid of him. He's out of here.
All right, I've got a few last questions or points for you on this one. I want to get your opinion on. So first and foremost, what I find short-sighted is he said he didn't like Gus's offense. You said it earlier, but just for the numbers purposes, in the 3 games he did play. So again, that would be Boise, Bethune, and he played the whole Louisville game. We averaged 47 points a game, 553 yards of offense, 6.8 yards per play. If what he saw after that was an offense he didn't like, well, that's because he wasn't playing, right? Like, so in theory, he's like, I don't like what these guys are doing. But the offense had to change drastically without him, without Bowser, without Jalen Robinson, right? So I think it's short-sighted. I think you said that earlier. I think that makes sense. I think it's short-sighted to say, well, I don't like this offense, because Gus clearly had to modify his offense based on all the other things that were happening around the team at that point. So I think that's incredibly short-sighted for him to say, I don't like this offense after what he put up in the first 3 games, and thinking that was the exact same offense he was going to walk back to.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb of him if that's what he's thinking. I mean, you're missing your starting quarterback, your starting running back, your best wide receiver, of course, and now you're playing with a true freshman at quarterback. It's not like you got a veteran that's coming in to fill in. You've got a guy coming in that has never started a game in college, just a couple of months away from graduating high school. His senior prom was just a few months ago, and here he is getting handed the keys to the car. So the offense had to change, and it did. And he's right. The offense was not good the last half of the season. The offense was not very good, but it would have been a lot better if Deon Griffin was healthy and playing. So, and the numbers he was putting up were big. I mean, the Boise State game, we put up a lot of yards and a lot of points. In the Bethune game, we put up 60-plus points. Louisville game, we did very well too. So to think he wouldn't have continued that against the rest of the American Conference is pretty stupid. I think he would have had a very good year.
Do you think people would be as upset or as angry as they are if it were not for DG the brand? So if you keep every other factor the same, the injury, all that, Gus Malzahn's the coach, everything else, but you remove the fact that he has DG the brand, or he has all these endorsement deals, if everything else is the same and he still leaves in this fashion, do you think people are as upset as they are now?
Probably not, because you're not seeing it for the last 6 to 8 weeks of him selling himself to you. And these are people that are buying the stuff. These are probably the people that are most pissed off. So probably not. If he's just quiet and you don't hear anything, you don't know anything behind the scenes, you don't know about all these stories, no, probably you're not as mad about it. It's another kid that's transferring, and we would still be upset. Yeah. We would say, why is he leaving? We'd question what's going on. We would probably start blaming Malzahn. Mm-hmm. How could you not keep this kid? What did you do? Why? What is it with your offense? This and that. That would probably be a lot of finger pointing going on there. But the way you see him selling himself and trying to make money off you, and then coming back and saying, okay, I'm out of here, then that's plenty of reason why people are mad.
Well, I think that this is going to be one of those unintended consequences of the NIL stuff, which, again, I have no qualms about. I think it's a fine idea. But I think we're used to this kind of stuff with our professional athletes, right? We're used to, so-and-so leaving the Knicks, so-and-so leaving the Yankees, right? It's what we kind of grow up with as kids. You get used to your favorite player leaving your team, and, we're in New Jersey next year. And the older that you and I have gotten, the more you get more and more used to it. But college football always had a little bit of that naivety around, well, that doesn't happen here. But, so it's one thing to get bamboozled by LeBron when he's saying, buy all my Heat stuff, and he's a Cavalier 16 hours later. It's another thing to get duped by a 20-year-old kid who goes to your college. And I think that's going to be an unintended consequence that people have to kind of grapple with is, we're used to this in our professional athletes. We're not used to this from our college athletes. And I think that's going to take some time for people to kind of get used to because, it's a whole new day with NIL. And I while we're experiencing it here with Dylan, I suspect it'll happen across the country throughout the next however long this goes on as people kind of get used to this new concept.
Yeah, and now just like everything else, the question is always, it's all about the money. It's always about the money. In college before, when kids were transferring, it really was because they thought they'd have a better chance at the NFL or a better chance at playing time somewhere else. But now, in this case, it's probably which place gives them the best chance to sell most of his stuff and make more money over the next year or two. I mean, he's basically sold all his – if you're going to buy a Dylan Gabriel jersey or socks, you probably already bought them if you're living in Orlando, right? If you're a UCF fan. Mm-hmm. So now all those people, they're not going to buy the same things again next season. You'd have to come out with new stuff. But now if he goes over to Tennessee, he's got a whole other fan base to sell the same socks to and the same Deon Gabriel jersey and all that stuff. So he's got a whole other audience. And if he's smart, he'll transfer again after the next year, and then he'll have a third set of fan base to sell that stuff to. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did something like that.
Yeah.
Plus, it also makes you think that somebody's already in his ear. He knows where he's going, or at least knows of 2 or 3 places for sure where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
So that makes you think that other people are kind of talking to him beforehand too. So that's another reason to get angry about it.
Well, I think as much as DG the brand is his thing, I mean, how much money do you think he's making off that stuff? I mean, I can't imagine it's a ton. But if you think about bigger schools like Oklahoma, you mentioned a lot of schools going through this as well. Spencer Rattler, their star quarterback coming into the year, he announced today he's transferring. He famously got a car or 2 cars from dealerships. Alabama's quarterback has a boatload of money apparently. So I think that's the other element is Dylan's maybe thinking about going to a spot where he's going to be able to get that car endorsement deal or some of the other opportunities available to him. But I mean, that's a tough proving ground. I mean, he's going to have to walk into a school and be that guy and hope that people buy into his hype early on just by watching the game film he had at UCF. And so whether that works out for him or not, to your point, if he goes to a familiar spot, maybe that does make some sense. Obviously, the Ole Miss thing with Jeff Lebby seems to be the hottest rumor. But even that's interesting, Mike, because they're high on the sweepstakes for Arch Manning, who is Peyton and Eli's nephew, Cooper Manning's son. He's a 2023 quarterback, obviously a lineage of Mannings went to Ole Miss. So Dylan would really be there in 2022, and then in 2023, there could even be a clamoring for Arch Manning. So is that a spot for him to go? Lincoln Riley goes to USC. Would he go back out west? He had offers there. Would he reunite with Heupel? He famously had an Instagram post that he took down that basically said, I didn't even get a phone call or something along those lines. Would he go back to Heupel and reunite there? So I guess we'll have to just kind of wait and see what his options are. But with all the coaching carousel stuff, he may be sitting for a little bit because, what if Kiffin takes Miami and then Lebby goes to this school? I mean, there could be a lot of things that go on that could make this a bit muddy for Dylan down the road. Not that's our problem to worry about, but it's definitely something to think about.
Right. Now, Heupel may want to take him at Tennessee, but if Heupel goes and takes the Oklahoma job, does he want to take him to Oklahoma with him?
Well, this will be telling. Does Heupel want to take him at Tennessee? So if you want to believe all of these things that you heard behind the scenes about Deon Gabriel, right? If you want to go to that side and go, yep, this is what I think he is as a teammate, as a leader, and Heupel saw that up close and personal. I assume that he would say, hey, I'll take the talent and I'll worry about the attitude. But it'll be curious to see if Heupel will take that route. One thing that, a few people had always told us behind the scenes, the whispers that we had heard about Heupel and some of the disgruntled nature you have with players, is that people always said that Heupel played favorites. And maybe that's what that meant. Like, maybe that meant that there was a different set of rules for Dylan than there were for other people. So would he sign back up for a Dylan tenure? I assume he would because he wants to win. But that'll be interesting to find out, like how that dynamic actually works out.
Right. Well, we're going to find out here in a few weeks. Who knows where these coaches end up? And every day it seems like there's a new coach going somewhere else. So Heupel right now is at Tennessee. There was chatter of him going back to Oklahoma. Who the heck knows? And the SEC seems to be changing coaches everywhere.
Every 5 minutes, yeah.
Every 5 minutes, somebody else. Florida just hired a new guy. Kiffin may leave Mississippi. LSU's just got a new coach. It's crazy.
Yeah. Here's the last thing I'll say on this. Really, to your point earlier, I mean, is it good buy? Is it good riddance? Is it good luck? It's probably somewhere in between. If there's anything that annoys me about this whole thing is that the national narrative, and you said it earlier, it will be, hey, what happened? Why did Dylan leave UCF? Why did Gus Malzahn run him off? And I think that's the thing that really kind of puts this as a bad taste in my mouth, is that as someone who's supposed to be, the captain of the team, is supposed to have, the best interest of the school at heart. And maybe that's a naive thing for me to take a look at. But I think there's going to be a lot of outside questions that are going to be raised. And I think, in theory, where I'm pissed off the most is it puts a black eye to UCF, because if you don't know these things behind the scenes, if you don't want to take the time to learn them, or if you don't believe in them, then to your point, there's a lot of finger pointing that could be had. And so I guess that's the part that pisses me off is, Mackenzie left with grace. We've seen other guys transfer in other circumstances, but the way this has gone down and the way even that goodbye statement, reads, opens up some doubt. And for someone who, again, while you can argue that he gave just as much to UCF as we gave to him, and I don't know who wins that battle, there's negative recruiting, Mike. And what he just did is give other schools, a grenade to put in a recruit's lap. Hey, the best quarterback that UCF had in years, he won't even stay there. Wonder what's going on there. You don't want to work with Malzahn. See if you're a guy who throws the ball. Look at Deon Gabriel. He had to leave, right? It's now almost going to come back as friendly fire on us. And it happens all the time. I get it. But that's the thing that I guess really pisses me off is the way that he handled it, the way that it's being perceived. He offered up now sort of grenades for other schools to attack us and other schools to kind of use that negatively from a recruiting standpoint.
Yeah, I've already got friends from other schools, telling you, oh, why is your quarterback leaving? What's going on over there? And other schools in Florida are happy to see that UCF is losing their starting quarterback. So, I have faith that Gus will have it figured out. Even if he believes in what Mikey Keene can do, and he's going to ride with him, or he's going to find some other kid to come in here. He's going to search the transfer portal himself. I don't think he'll just stick with just Mikey and Castellanos. I think there will be somebody else here in the quarterback room next year. So I believe in Gus. Yeah. So far, he's done a great job in recruiting. So let's see what he can do here with the quarterbacks.
Well, let's turn our attention away from our now former quarterback, and we'll move forward with our lives onto other topics. And transfer portal is one that's out there, Mike. There are a lot of names that are now being bandied about. Oklahoma's losing just a gaggle of kids who are now decommitting. There's a linebacker that's out of Maryland that is from Miami that he essentially announced his transfer. You mentioned quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix from Auburn is thinking about it. Anthony Richardson from Florida is thinking about it. So there's a number of high-profile guys, and UCF is trying to get in the mix. There's a running back out of Georgia Tech. He's in the portal. So the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. But Gus made mention specifically, and now it makes more sense in his press conference about that this is going to be a destination for transfers to go as well, Mike. So do you expect Gus to bring in at least another quarterback? Do you think that's at least at the minimum what you'll see him go to the portal to get?
Yeah, I think he'll get a quarterback, and he'll get some other guys too. You're going to need another guy or two on the offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised to see another running back come in. Anything he thinks is going to help this team. The defense has been improved from last year, but still not where we need it to be. So we've got a bunch of really good freshman recruits coming in on defense, especially in the secondary. But I expect him to shore up this team in all the spots. Now that he's been here for a year, he knows exactly what this team needs, and he's not going to be shy to go into the portal and get it.
Yeah, again, there's just so many. I think I saw today 93 different FCS or FBS, whatever it was, kids entered the portal today. So there's going to be a lot of talent. It's college free agency at this point, so there'll be a lot of talent out there. A couple of names that are interesting, Mike, to keep an eye on for us that may or may not help UCF. I took note, and a lot of people did as well, neither Isaiah Bowser nor Kalia Davis walked out during senior day. And there was some, obviously, we know that both those guys experienced some injuries. Both those guys, I think, were hoping to have big seasons and maybe make a jump. Both of those guys had those plans derailed. Now, I'm not saying that both of them stay at UCF and will be here, but it's interesting neither Bowser nor Kalia Davis came out for their senior day walk. So don't know if that means they're considering staying. Obviously, announcements can come soon, Mike, but maybe a couple of these guys stick around after all. You never know.
Yeah, Bowser's a guy that has to prove to the NFL he can stay healthy. This is not the only year he's been hurt. In his first couple of years at Northwestern, he was also hurt. So he needs to come in and have a full season. I think maybe you will see him back next year, and that'd be great for us because we saw what he could do while he was in there this year. He's a guy that can do it all. Even though he's not the fastest running back we've ever seen, but he gets those tough yards up the middle. He can block. He can do a lot of good things back there. So if we get him back, that running back room looks very strong. We already saw that, we were missing R.J. Harvey to start the year, too. Is another guy we were depending on to go along with now guys getting experience in Johnny Richardson and Mark Anthony Richards this year. Running back would be strong if he comes back. Kalia Davis is another one. He was on his way. I think if he had finished out the season the way it was going so far, he probably would have been one of the guys that you're talking about getting drafted this year. And now he's got to prove that he can come back healthy. He may have to prove to the NFL that his leg is okay next year. So another guy maybe we'll see back to strengthen the defensive lines. You would think that if they were gone, they would walk during senior night, right? Why wouldn't you? Because you're not going to get another one. But the fact that they didn't, maybe we'll see them again next year.
Yeah, Bowser's interesting. I don't know. I don't know that I understand the Bowser rules as well, because he grad transferred to UCF from Northwestern, but obviously he had a free COVID year, so I don't think he's used his free one-time transfer. I don't know if the grad transfer counts as that. So I guess in theory he could also enter the portal and try to play 1 year someplace else. Again, Kalia Davis could do the same. So I guess there's no guarantee that those guys stick at UCF. But obviously it was interesting that neither one of those two guys came out for the senior day walk. And obviously even those guys who did come out for senior day, they in theory could come back for another season. Again, not sure if any of those guys are really considering that. But I guess announcements will come soon, and we'll see about some of the bigger names, or some of the names maybe we want to have stick around. Really, the O-lineman would be interesting. Sam Jackson, Cole Schneider, just the depth that we would need, and having those guys back could be interesting. But we'll have, I'm sure we'll have more updates on that as the weeks go on, Mike, and as we lead into the bowl season, which as we record here on Monday night, still don't know where that's going to be at. We know Hawaii's off the board, and Memphis is going there. We know that the Military Bowl is off the board. ECU is going there. The Action Network, which is Brett McMurphy and that bunch, they had Florida and UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl. There's also some thoughts about Fenway, some thoughts about Birmingham. So that's what we have. We still don't quite have clarity on bowl season, Mike. What do you want? Give me UCF. If Terry Mohadra called you right now and says, Mike, what do you need, buddy? What are you telling him?
I don't want to go to Fenway because I don't want to. I'm definitely not going to that game. Let's face it, I'm going to be freezing.
And it's like also, a 11 a.m. kickoff on like a random Tuesday or something too.
Yeah, so for a game that I can't go to, it's also the hardest game to get to watch. I mean, you guess you could take the day off work, or you just leave early and go to a bar and watch it. But that's the game I probably want the least. Probably one, because it'd be hardest for us to win in that kind of weather, and two, as a fan, I can't enjoy it as much as at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, whatever it is. So that one's out for me. It doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of talk for the Cure Bowl or the Boca Bowl anymore, right? And those would be the other two Florida ones. So my top choice would be Gasparilla. And regardless of the opponent, one, it's on a Thursday night, but we're off Friday because Friday is Christmas Eve, right? So it's on a good day, and it's a night game, 7 o'clock. Even if you had to work early that day, you can take a half day, make the trip over to Tampa, and get there in time for the game. Even if you can't make the game, it's still a good night to go out and watch the game at a watch party. If I'm off the next day, and you hang out all night that night. So to me, time-wise and day-wise, that's the best one. Location is the best one. It's in Tampa. It's the closest to Orlando without the Cure Bowl, which the Cure Bowl is going to get you an opponent against what? A MAC team or a Conference USA team, something like that. Whereas Gasparilla looks like it's going to be an SEC or an ACC team. So I think matchup-wise, day and everything, Gasparilla is our best choice.
Yeah, I think it's obviously well, that's the theory. Florida was obviously the rumored opponent, and there's that age-old conspiracy theory that Florida will always duck us. And so can we get Florida? Does the opponent matter to you? I mean, if it's Florida versus I don't know whatever, Louisville again or North Carolina, does the opponent matter as much as location to you?
No, I'd prefer the actual bowl first. I mean, it'd be nice to play the Gators, but honestly, I don't have much confidence in us beating the Gators the way our team has played late in the season. I know they're going through some stuff too. They gave up like 52 points to, who was it, Samford a few weeks ago. They struggled against Florida State this past week. They're not playing great either, and then they don't have a coach in place. Well, they just hired one, but he hasn't been there with them all year. So I understand that it's not a good season for them. But the way our offense has played the last few weeks, I mean, the way we just played this week against the Cows and earlier in the year against East Carolina and Tulane in games at home where we struggled to put up 14 points. I'm not thrilled with the way we're playing either. So I wouldn't mind playing any other team from the ACC or the SEC. If it's South Carolina or Virginia Tech or Virginia or Missouri or something like that, that'd be fine with me. Even if we were to lose one of those games, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. If we were to go in there and lose to the Gators, that would hurt, for all the talking we've done to them for the last couple of years. But on the other hand, if we go in there and we beat the Gators, then
Boom.
We have bragging rights for the next couple of seasons, which at the same time, I guess we could beat them. I'm just, if we were a healthier team, you tell me Bowser's playing in the game, you tell me everybody's back healthy. I mean, if you had told me Deon Gabriel has been playing the last few weeks.
Who?
Exactly.
You mean the
I
Ole
feel
Miss
a lot
quarterback?
different. Yeah, Tennessee quarterback. I'd feel differently going into that game. But no, it doesn't bother me who the opponent is. I'd rather play Missouri or Virginia than I would play against I don't know, who would be one of those other teams in the Cure Bowl, like Arkansas State or something like that again.
I think SI had us playing in Birmingham against Utah State. So obviously there could be better options. I mean, well, I guess we'll see. There's a lot of back channeling that goes on here. Obviously, ESPN controls a lot of these games. They want matchups, but they also want to, kowtow to a few different schools. So we'll see where that shakes out. Hopefully, we have an announcement here soon, so that that UCF can get out there. And the good news, Mike, is we get more practices. So as Gus has a chance now to really kind of understand his new team, and not that he probably didn't know this already, that's more reps for Mikey. That's more reps for Parker Navarro. More guys can maybe get a chance to break in a little bit. So gives I think you get 15 bowl practices, something like that. Maybe I have that wrong. So at least you get more reps for some of these guys, get a chance to get out there and scheme them up a little bit now that you sort of know where you are. And I'm curious to see how the team plays with some of that drama that we assume was happening behind the scenes behind them too. Other quick note, Mike, Caden Robinson, a 1-year wonder here for UCF, 1 catch, 30 yards and a touchdown. He is also transferring and has announced that he's leaving UCF as well. He was famously seen on the bench squirting a water bottle at Deon Gabriel, so maybe there's a connection there. Who knows? But we will see Caden Robinson exiting UCF as well, Mike. And those are the news. And lost in all of this is we actually played a heck of a game on Friday, and we have a heck of a victory to talk about. We're going to take a break here. We come back, though, we will talk about what took place on Friday, and we'll go over the Black Friday win versus the Cows. Don't go anywhere. No more Deon Gabriel talk. We're all Sons of UCF after this.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair is on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, on to the fun stuff, Mike. Friday night in the Bounce House, 3:30 kick. The series tied 6-6. The Knights and the Cows. It was a close kind of barn burner. Went down to the end. That second half, not a whole lot of scoring going on, Mike. But in the end, a defensive stand by UCF proves to be all we needed there. We come away with a 17-13 victory. Wraps the year for us at 8-4. Cows 2-10 on the season. Mike, it felt kind of weird. You and I were jumping around and grabbing people and bear hugging people, and we eked out a win against a 2-10 team. But nonetheless, it was a nice victory. How do you feel now, Mike, that we have taken the series lead back from the Cows after starting in an 0-4 hole?
It feels good. It feels good to finally have a lead on these guys. That was a miserable 4 years early on. I know a lot of you guys are new to the UCF program, even people that just started following us in the last 5 to 6 years, where we've dominated the series. We've won the last 5 in a row. But there was a time where these guys beat us every time, and there were blowouts early there, and there were a couple of heartbreakers there early. To finally now have the lead on these guys feels really good. I'm glad we did it. I know it was an ugly win. I would have preferred to 64-12 these guys right back, and we still owe them that. And maybe next year is the year. We kept saying that every year is going to be the year to do that. Next year may be our last chance to do that. So hopefully that's when it happens. But it was good. And looking back on it, it kind of feels even better now that they thought that they had us. They thought they had a chance to beat us. Came down to the last play, and they couldn't do it. So it feels good now to win that way too.
It does, and it really puts things in perspective. If you think about it, obviously we assumed we'd have this high potent offense this year and things would be flying around, and that changed in a hurry with all the injuries. But you got to give Gus a pat on the back. He continued to find ways to have us win. And yeah, we won ugly, and yeah, we probably had teams that shouldn't be in the games, and they were in the games. But at the end of the day, Mike, coming out 8-4, with the true freshman quarterback and just a litany of injuries all over the field. A bunch of guys having to step up and play big. You got to take your hat off to a guy like Gus, and even Mikey Keene, who just came in and did what we could. And yeah, it wasn't pretty, and this was another microcosm of that. But they figured out a way to continue to put W's on the board. Obviously, we took a couple of tough losses this year, but they kept finding ways for us to win the game, and it's probably not the way either one of them wanted to. And this was another good example of how the 2021 season will probably be remembered.
Yeah, 2 games where we had no chance in Cincinnati and SMU. The other 2 losses we really could have won, or they should have won. We blew, a 14, 17-point lead against Navy in the fourth quarter. And, the Louisville game we had with a chance to win there at the end, too. So if this team is 10-2, we're looking at this season completely differently. But then there's also games where we could have easily lost, as in this past week. Yeah. And games against East Carolina and Tulane at home. But at least now this team, we used to say this about the basketball team last year, is they would just find a way to lose the close ones. And games that we could have won against Wichita State that we didn't, we lost by 1 point. We found ways to lose. This team found ways to win some of those close games, and that can only help you down the road next year. Now they have experience in close games, which helps in the long run.
All right, well, let's get into our category. So we go through the game, and we tell you 3 things, and we grade it based on previous bowl experiences UCF has had. Mike, you lead off as always, so I'll let you take away with the first one.
All right, I got a peach, and this is just for a particular play in this game, and it's the Titus punt return.
Okay, yeah.
A 39-yard punt return on a trick play where everybody sets up to return on one side. Titus is the only guy on the other side, and that's where the ball goes. He catches it, goes free down the sideline. Gus was holding this one all
season, for crying out loud.
Man,
good God.
Pulled it out at the perfect time. It worked beautifully. You don't ever think about it, but everybody that's running down to tackle the punt returner is not even looking up at the ball. They don't know which direction the ball is going. And Titus is the only guy that actually goes to where the ball is. Everybody else goes the other way. And it set us up for a short field, and we needed it right before the half to put us up 14-7. He only had one man to beat. If that one guy doesn't make that tackle, we had the other guy that was there blocked. He would have gone all the way. We haven't scored a touchdown on a punt return or a kick return now since Otis did it back in 2019 against Pittsburgh. I thought this was it. But it was almost, but it was the best play of the night for us, and that gets a peach for me.
Yeah, that's Amari Johnson gets a credit for that too, because he sold it on the other side, right? So he sold it as the guy who was going to catch the ball, and he was going over there and running underneath it and looked like he was going to catch it. And even for a second, I didn't see I guess I typically don't watch the flight of the ball when I'm at the game. I was just kind of looking to see the returners, and all of a sudden Titus is running, and you're right, he had a chance to even break a tackle, and maybe that works out for him, but yeah, it's interesting. He obviously Gus sat on this one for a long time. Special teams was a problem throughout the entire season, and he waited till the right time. I'm always curious though. I assume that has to be called really well. They have to know that the Cows are going to want to punt to that side of the field at that point, right? And obviously they have to have the right personnel. So I assume that's been practiced. I assume that's one of those things they worked on. So maybe at least they tried some stuff. I'll give them credit for that. Would have been fantastic. That place would have come to the ground if Titus returned that thing. It was a really good play call by Gus, and I guess maybe Brian Blackman, special teams coordinator. I guess maybe he deserves some credit for that too.
Yeah, let's give him some credit. That play had to be scouted out. They had to know the Cows punt a certain direction, even though you would think the guys covering the kick would know which direction the ball is supposed to be going, right? But I guess we fooled them enough with the guys that were going down the block. So I don't know. It worked out. It was cool. I've seen other teams do that. I think like in high school, I've seen highlights of the teams do that. I definitely never seen us do that before, but it was cool that it worked.
Yeah, I just like that it causes, if a team knows that you're going to be really unique and different on special teams, it causes them to have to scout that. It causes them to have to practice that. And maybe that takes time away from other parts of the offense or the defense they have to work on. So it's good to make teams think about having to, not just give up on the third phase of the game, as Hypo would say. So it was a fun play to have, Mike. I'm going to start off with a peach as well. And I'm going to steal multiples here. I'm going to go with the running back duo of Johnny Richardson and Mark Anthony Richards. Johnny had 8 for 95, including a long of 42, and Mark Anthony had 14 for 80, including a long of 26. Those two guys kind of did that thunder lightning concept that we had talked about all year. Obviously, we know Johnny's got some speed. He had a couple of good moves in the open field, and we know that Mark Anthony is kind of that power guy, that guy who can kind of put his head down and get a couple yards and make some things happen. Obviously not the most fluid passing game. Mikey only threw for 115 yards, so the ground attack was going to be crucial. And obviously no Isaiah Bowser again. Richardson and Richards carried the ball, for I guess the majority of the carries we had. We had 27 as a team, and they accounted for 23 of those. So definitely a great performance by those two guys. A nice little thunder lightning combo. And if something happens and Bowser doesn't come back, I mean, at least you feel good that we have a couple of guys that now have some reps, have some experience. I found it interesting on the bridge today on his radio show. Mark Daniels mentioned that Mark Anthony Richards hasn't really been healthy all season. And so maybe that explains some of the reason why we didn't see him as much as we wanted to. But Mike, he's obviously a promising back. Johnny's got a lot of explosiveness. I think it was a good mixture against the Cows, and obviously a big part of the win. So I'm going to go with the running back duo of Richards and Richardson.
Yeah, they've been getting more comfortable in the backfield together as the season's gone on. Gus has figured out the workload for each of them, and Mark Anthony Richards seems like when he gets in that game, he gets in the end zone most times, and he's going to be a playmaker for us. And we know the explosiveness that Johnny Richardson has. So I think they work well together. Even better if Bowser was back, and then I don't know how you split up the three. I think maybe it'd just be Johnny and Bowser mostly, and Mark Anthony Richards comes in as a third guy. But yeah, they look pretty good. At least that was the bulk of our offense because it wasn't much. But it kind of leads me to mine. Well, then Hawaii.
Well, then hold on a second. So think about those three, right? And then we're bringing in McDonald from the high school kid from Georgia, and RJ Harvey went down last year and obviously did not play a snap. So the running back room could certainly continue to stay loaded. And while it certainly didn't go the way we wanted to a lot, maybe the experience these guys gain is going to be next year's blessing in disguise, particularly when you add some other talented guys back to that room.
Yeah, McDonald kid, if you look at his tape, he looks really good.
Yeah.
I saw a playoff game he played in the other day. He scored like 4 or 5 touchdowns. So he looks good. But for me, the next category, the Hawaii, is the offense because it wasn't that great. Going up against a Cows team that was one of the worst defenses in all of college football. What were they ranked, like 120th coming into this game?
They were.
We only got 12 first downs. Only 285 total yards. And what was disappointing was in the red zone, we were only 3 of 5 in the red zone. We missed a couple field goals, but that's been a strong point for us all season. I've mentioned, I don't know how many times after games, when we get into the red zone, we put points on the board. We couldn't finish these guys off. And then we had 4 times in this game where we went 3 and out against the Cows. 1 drive for 5 yards. Another one for 1 yard, another one for 1 yard, and one time for -1 yard against one of the worst defenses, like I mentioned. And the first 2 drives of the game, we went for 120 yards. It looked like we were going to be moving the ball all day on these guys up and down the field, right? We went down the first drive, settled for a field goal, but we moved the ball like 80 yards that drive, missed the field goal. Then we go down the next time and we score the touchdown on them. Nice drive. In the second half, we only had 106 total yards on offense. And if it's not for that punt return that we mentioned earlier, who knows if we even set up to score that second touchdown? Who knows if we even score enough points to win this game?
Yeah.
The offense has to be better. It has to be a better all around, especially against bad defenses like this.
One of the things I'm most looking forward to in the next couple of months, Mike, is once football season comes to an end, then you and I typically get a chance to talk to some of the guys who are on the team and who are now sort of free, if you will, to be able to have conversations. And we get lucky every year. We have a bunch of guys on. I can't wait to have some guys on and just understand how much did Gus pare back the playbook for a Mikey Keene-led offense kind of mid-season. Because obviously, to your point, there doesn't appear to be a lot of fluidity. It seems like that first drive, Gus is a fantastic first drive coach. He schemes up that first 15 like nobody else. and we've had a lot of good games where that first drive was surgical, and then obviously things kind of fall off after that. So I'd love to have one of those guys on at some point here in the next couple of months and just get a sense for how much was the playbook pared back, how much was Mikey really allowed to do, and can he develop and build off that here in the bowl season practices and going into next season. Not sure who will be, under center when we kick this thing off again next year, but does Mikey have a chance to develop, and will Gus give him that opportunity? So, because you're right, it definitely got anemic after a while, and sort of the bubble screens to Ryan O'Keefe were only worked for so long. So we'll see how that works out. He did throw a beautiful ball to Brandon Johnson for a touchdown, though. I'll give him that. That was a great sort of back shoulder, really right above the pylon, only one place that he could put it that Brandon could catch it without the defense getting involved. So he did make a couple of really nice throws, and that one to Brandon was a nice throw.
We've seen quarterbacks in their first year starting not be the greatest. Mackenzie Milton, I know it was different. He was making a lot more plays with his feet, but he was not the most accurate passer his freshman year. Came back the next year, had one of the best seasons you'll ever see. Even Blake Bortles, in 2012, the offense was okay. It wasn't great. But then you saw signs of it in that bowl game against Ball State where he looked really good, and then you carry that over to the next year, and he looked fantastic. So hopefully Mikey will improve. You'll see a big improvement next year, and he knows now what he has to work on. He knows his weaknesses and things he's got to fix up for next year if he wants to continue being the starting quarterback. So we'll see. And now he's got these couple of weeks here to prepare for the bowl game. Maybe he has a big bowl game heading into the offseason and build his confidence a little.
And whether it was shade or not, Gus made a comment that Mikey hasn't really been 100% for most of the season either. So whether that was meant to be a knock on anybody else or if that was just to explain Mikey. So maybe a couple of weeks for him to get healthy. Maybe that explains why he didn't run as much. I will say this, Mike, anytime that he scrambles out of the pockets or sort of breaks contain and starts to scramble towards the right or left, nothing good happens. He's going to throw it away, or it's going to be a broken play, or he's going to take a sack. So we've got to figure out ways to get him better in that area. When the protection breaks down and he's got to kind of get out of the pocket or get away from something, it seems like things just all go to hell there. So we've got to figure out a way to help Mikey in that part. But to your point, he's got some practices coming up. Maybe he can work on some of that stuff.
Yeah, you never see him just tuck it and go. If you watch the hour time video from last week with the UConn game, did you hear Gus's reaction to his 30-yard run? He's like, "Whoa, what did I just see? Did I just see that? Am I dreaming?" Because he hasn't done that very often, and you see that he's capable of it. He's an athlete; he can run a little bit. We heard that he had that ability coming out of high school. I don't know if he's been scared to do it or if he just wants to stay in the pocket and continue to look for a pass. The one thing you give him credit for is he'll throw the ball away. He won't take a sack as much, and he won't throw it into double coverage. He'd rather just take the ball and throw it out of bounds. He's done a good job with that throughout the season. But you like to see him just take it and run with it when the opportunity presents itself.
All right, my next category, Mike, I'm going to give this one a liberty because it wasn't perfect, but I did like the pressure that the defense was able to get on the Cows, particularly quarterback Timmy McClain, even some of the running backs that were back there, Mike. 6 sacks on the day, led by a sack and a half from Ricky Barber. They had 11 tackles for loss, led by Tremon Orrs-Brash. Mike had 3 tackles for loss for a total of 15 yards. And then they had 6 QB hurries. It's probably more than that. I'm not sure how you do that stat specifically, but 6 QB hurries as well. And a couple of really big timely sacks or timely plays that were made. I think that really really helped to seal the deal down the stretch there by some of those guys. So I'm going to give it to the defense in general. William Wells, by the way, I don't know if he's not up on your list, Mike, but he's a name that came out of nowhere, had a huge sack of 14 yards late in the game that really helped to put things away. So overall, the pressure that the defense was able to get on Timmy McClain and the Cows. Tremon Orrs-Brash, Mike. Here's a kid. I know we do this every week with him. You see the plays he makes sometimes, and you're like, man, if this guy can just figure out a way to get this more consistently, he would just be a force to be reckoned with. He had 3 tackles for loss and a sack, 5 total tackles. He played a really nice game. If we could get that production out of him consistently, next year, and I don't know what his deal is and where he's going to be and what's going to happen there, but that would be fantastic. But overall, pressure on the quarterback and really the way T. Will drew that up is going to give a chance for them to get a liberty this week.
Yeah, 6 sacks. You'll take that every game if you can get it. Morris Brash has been a guy that came in here highly touted. He was a 4-star. He made the big announcement coming over to UCF. Has had his moments here now where it's been a little disappointing. Maybe you heard last year, maybe he came in out of shape. The issues he had at the beginning of this season. If he can get his head on straight and focus here, he's got the talent to do it, and he's got to put something together. Maybe he's got a big year next year in store for us. But getting pressure on the quarterback, that's key for the entire defense. It helps the guys out there covering, and it ignites the crowd. When you get a sack and you get a big play like that on defense, the crowd goes nuts, and the whole team kind of pulls from that. So good to see some pressure on the quarterback.
All right, what do you got for your final category of the regular season, Mike?
It's a Boca Bowl.
I'm
going to end with it. I know we said we were done talking about it. So one more, just a little bit more here. Deon Gabriel.
Who?
Still being captain of this team coming into this game. How is this allowed? How is he allowed to still wear the C and go out there for the coin toss? And he hadn't even announced his transfer yet. I know 2 guys that were booing him when they announced his name to flip that coin, and it was me and it was you.
That's fair.
we booed him out there because we knew what was happening. We knew what was going to happen the next day.
Stay tuned for what I said after that. Addison, I think, will maybe have that in UCF Observations.
Yeah, you see him on the sidelines, not engaged in the game at all. He does not wearing the headphones. He's not helping Mikey Keene out. This is a rivalry game. If you're healthy enough to play and you're on this roster, you got to get out there and play. And if you're not, it's only because you're thinking of yourself. You quit on your teammates. It's a selfish thing to do. You're only looking out for DG the brand. This is a Boca Bowl at its highest point. You can't get more Boca than this. So it's supposed to be the captain of this team ducking out, the captain just leaving the ship. And I can't believe – if you told me this was going to happen before the season, man, I would have never believed it. He was the pick to be the offensive MVP of this team, the overall MVP of this team. We're talking about him setting school records and having a chance to win his first conference title, take us to the playoff maybe next year. The skies were the limit for this kid. And now, the way it's ended, it's disgraceful, really. So,
yeah,
he gets the Boca for this week. It's
funny you said the highest point of the Boca, which is the lowest thing. 2 things. I agree on all that stuff, and we may end up using this, so I don't want to tease it too much. But Trace had an interview with Dylan in the preseason that it's still available on our YouTube page and still available at twonightsmedia.com. If you really want to get super angry, I encourage you to go back and listen to that interview because there are some things that DG said in that interview. Maybe we'll bring those back for the live show on Thursday, Mike. But I think that's the quintessential cow of the week option. That's a Boca Bowl. That's whatever the lowest forms of things we have on this show to hand out. I think that is well deserved, Mike. I'm going to give out my last category, Mike. Daniel Obarski, the roller coaster that is Daniel Obarski, continues. 2 missed field goals, maybe, because he may have made that 1 field goal, actually. There's some other video that's floating around out there that makes it look like he made that field goal. But regardless of that, which, again, he may have gotten robbed on that, the reality is, unfortunately, he seems like a really good kid. But just consistency-wise, and maybe this is college kickers, and maybe we got a tad spoiled with Matt Wright. Dylan Barnes was even pretty, dead on balls accurate. Every time Obarski goes out there, it feels like you're like, oh my God, what's this going to be? And in a game where we really needed those points, that really hurt because he had obviously 2 misses. Again, one may have been a make. I don't really know. One in the first quarter that was 35-yarder, and one in the second quarter that was a 45-yarder. Missed both those. Did make a 32-yarder later in the game. But, Mike, you talked about the offense kind of being a tad anemic and not being able to put some stuff together. Those are 2 drives that we could have, to to borrow a bowling analogy, you could have completed the frame, right? You could close the frame out on those drives, even though they're not what you wanted. That could have been 6 extra points that we had thrown up on the board that we couldn't pull in there, which maybe makes this game feel a lot different, look a lot different. Then it's a 10-point victory than the 4-point victory it is. But I don't know. It's college kickers. I get they're unreliable. I get that, there's a lot of stuff going on, but at some point we've got to find a way to get that kicking game more consistent. I don't know if that's Obarski. I don't know if we're in the portal for a kicker. I don't know if Riker Casey has a leg on him still. I don't know what we got there, but Obarski, we needed those 6 points this week, and we didn't get them, and luckily we pulled it out without it, but we've got to get more consistency there for next year.
Well, Gus warned them early in the year in the practice. He's going to make them go for it on 4th downs. He actually went for the field goal a bunch of times. And
that was a different offense Gus was going for on 4th down with it when he said that in the preseason, though.
That's true, too. Yeah, you don't have Bowser back there and some other guys. But, yeah, man, it's definitely a point of concern, man. I'm never confident when I see him try it out there to kick a field goal. I don't think he's ever going to make it. And I'm worried with the extra points, to be honest, even though he's made those. But those 2 misses, those are our misses in the red zone. We could have been 5 for 5. We'd come away with points those times instead of this being a 4-point game at the end. If we're up by 10, that last drive is not as important as it turned out to be. So you got to hit those. And hopefully if it's him, much improved next year, or it's this boomer kid that's coming in, somebody that goes out there and is able to give us some confidence to make a big kick when it counts.
Yeah. We are going to need that, Mike. Those that's what we got. Those are the categories. That is the final regular season category. Obviously, we top it off on a high note with a win against the Cows, Mike. We got UCF observations in a second, but before we roll those, why don't we roll on about your sister's business, Paper and Lace Boutique? Obviously, they are a company that's on the rise. They do fantastic work in the wedding invitation space and really a lot of other invitations as well, Mike. Do you want to share with our audience a little bit more about Paper and Lace?
That's right. My sister Michelle's wedding invitation company. She's been doing it for years now. She just opened up her store. Give her a call at 954-597-6426 and let her make the wedding invitations for you. She does everything for the wedding day. The place cards, the vow books, the invitations themselves. And it doesn't have to be a wedding. If you're having a big New Year's party coming up and you want to make it fancy.
Maybe having a bowl watch party. You're watching the bowl together?
That's right.
There we go.
A big Gasparilla Bowl watch party.
Okay.
Or a Fenway Bowl party at your house at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. If you want to send out some fancy invitations, she's the one you call. Go to her website, paperandlaceboutique.com. Check out all the different stuff she's done. She can cater it exactly for however you want it. And she does a fantastic job, man. Her reviews are through the roof. She's very busy, but she'll find time for you. She makes it very personal. You can come in if you're down here locally. You can go into the office, and she'll meet with you privately and go over exactly what you need to do. If not, don't worry. She's worldwide. She just take care of you if you live in Orlando or Atlanta or New York or on the other side of the world. I think Australia was her first customer. So give her a call, 954-597-6426. See what she can do for you. Tell her Sons of UCF sent you. She'll give you 10% off your first order.
Australia, huh?
I'm pretty sure it's Australia.
Fun fact.
That's her first. Yeah.
Wow. Good day, man.
Down under.
Yeah, good day.
Yeah. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
All right, Mike, every week we watch these games. This time we watch this one in person together. And we have all these thoughts, all these things come to our mind, all these anecdotes, these things we're not sure people picked up on. And we use this segment, we call it UCF Observations, to share these little tidbits with all of you because we're not quite sure where else to put them, and we think they're pretty funny to begin with, Mike. So why don't you start off with what's your first UCF observation?
In a season where 6 of 12 games were decided by one score, including a come-from-behind 5-point win to start the season versus Boise State, 2 heartbreaking last-second finishes versus Louisville and Navy, and 3 4-point wins versus East Carolina, Tulane, and the Cows at home. And just like that, the Cardiac Knights are back.
Yeah, there was a lot of close ones. This one obviously went down to the wire, almost went down to a second play at the end wire. So a lot of close ones, yeah. Yeah, not as exciting offensively as maybe that 2013 team, but definitely went down to the wire, Mike. Luckily, I hope too many people don't listen to the show. I don't know what our numbers are these days. I haven't looked in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, nobody really listens to the show because I don't. This means maybe, just maybe, I'll get away with naming Cade Robinson as my offensive breakout player of the year. I didn't mean breakout of the team. I meant breakout and play well. But I named him my breakout player of the year on offense. So I got that one wrong. That's
He's leaving too. There's another guy that's entering.
He did break out. So technically speaking, maybe he did break out.
Luke Fickell, Notre Dame, collision course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, college football coaching. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's going everywhere. Names popping up here. Their Heupel's name was back out there for a hot minute. Luckily, someone talked some sense into that one, Mike. Speaking of that, Mike, you know what they had in the Black and Gold Club at the Addison Financial Arena while I was at the game on Saturday? You know what they have there, Mike?
Hot dogs? Potato salad.
Seltzer, Mike. Actual seltzer. Actual real life seltzer, Mike. You know what this means? We're a basketball school now.
I thought they had seltzer in the cabana. They did.
I don't even know. It was like this funky Buddha kind. They only had like mango pie, like papaya or something. I don't know. I didn't know that.
With Deon Gabriel entering the transfer portal now, it made me think of top 5 DGs at UCF all time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Ready for number 5?
Yeah.
Number 5, we thought was going to see a lot of playing time this year. Somehow, I don't know, I've ended up in the doghouse or whatever, but safety Derek Gaines.
Yeah.
Number 5.
He's a senior, I think. He's leaving, too. I think he's a senior.
Not much playing time. I think he got in on for 2 snaps this game against South Florida. Been quiet for most of the year.
It's not all lost. He did one of those Sons of UCF sounders for the live show, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah, I don't remember my preseason predictions, but I think he was one of my defensive guys I
should have wrote those down.
Look out for, too.
Damn it.
Number 4, Deon Griffin.
Oh.
Basketball player.
Yeah.
6.8 points per game over 2 seasons, 2017 and 18, and then 18 and 19. Pretty decent player. Not too shabby overall. Okay. Number 3, another basketball player on the team right now, Darren Green Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the better shooters we've seen in a while. He had a few big 3-pointers the other day.
Yeah.
We had a big debate earlier this year. Who was the bigger DG, him or Deon Gabriel?
Well,
I think maybe
he's definitely
going to win this one.
He's definitely taller, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If he's bigger that way.
The number 2 DG of all time, Doug Gabriel.
Yeah, okay. I figured that was coming. Okay.
Doug Gabriel. We tricked everybody, and especially UCF's Dan Forcella. That mad at us for a second, thinking that we interviewed Deon Gabriel without his permission, but it really just turned out to be Doug Gabriel, and we were fine with that.
Luckily, now
He's
I don't.
Number 2 DG.
Luckily, I don't think he'd care if we did it right now.
No, I don't think we want him right now.
I reached out. I haven't heard back yet.
Number 1 DG of all time at UCF.
Yeah.
Drunk girls.
There we go.
There we go. A lot of drunk girls in my time at UCF.
You sure did.
They were my favorite.
Yeah.
Of the DGs.
No, that's a fair assessment of the DGs. Actually, you stole my next one, Mike. I actually wrote down here. It was ironic that Deon Gabriel's news broke during the UCF Oklahoma basketball game. I mean, after all, he was the second best DG on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Started out.
Well, actually, if you count Derek Gaines, he was number 3.
Wow, drunk girls. I mean, he's slipping down the list slowly but surely. Yeah.
Demarius Good didn't even crack the top 5.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were going there too.
Everyone is projecting UCF versus Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah.
So you know what that means. UCF Fenway Bowl.
Yep.
Collision course.
There we go. Not a doubt in my mind, Mike. You and I spent some time at the alumni tailgate on Friday. And so here's a free tip. Alumni tailgate organizers, here's a free tip from me to you. Let people pre-register for the tailgate. Check IDs when they get there. Put wristbands on. Drink beer. It's that simple. We don't need to wait in a line to wait in another line. That was a bit ridiculous. There's got to be a faster way to do that. Have someone pre-register, check their ID, get a wristband on them, and let them move about their business. It's a free tip from me to you, UCF alumni tailgate people.
Yeah, you know what they need is that setup like Drew Belani has over at Pour Choice, where they just got a bunch of spigots there, and you just go over and pour your own beers. Once you get in, if you're going to give out free beer, just give it out free beer.
Okay.
Don't make it harder for us to get.
There you
go. You know what DG does not stand for?
Doing good.
That's it. Depart gracefully.
Oh, very good. Very good, Mike.
He is not departing gracefully here at the end.
Speaking of the alumni tailgate, actually at that place and a few other places around campus all weekend, Mike, I met some faithful listeners, some people that I'd never met before. So I've got my top 5 list of people I met this weekend that I'd never met before. Are you ready for this top 5 list of people I met this weekend for the first time?
I hope you're not going to leave some people out, because we met a bunch of them.
I know. Some people I don't remember their names, so they may get left out. But I did appreciate meeting all of you, Mike. Here we go. Number 5 person I met this weekend for the first time, Jeff Sharon. Met Jeff Sharon. Met Jeff Sharon at the basketball game. Funny anecdote. He was wrapping up his duties. There was nobody standing around there, so I walked towards the railing and I said, "Hey, Jeff, nice to meet you." And he came over and he shook my hand. And he says, "It's Eric, right?" And I said, "Nope, it sure isn't." So I'm not sure if that counts as me meeting Jeff Sharon, but Jeff Sharon, number 5.
Who did he think you were?
I have no idea.
One of the dudes on the mall or something?
It's possible. That's very possible. Number 4 person I met this week that I'd never met before. Speaking of Eric Henry, who, Mike, may rival you for a man who wears tank top the most. He had his tank top on. He wears a tank top a bunch. He's got smokestacks for arms for sure. So Eric Henry, number 4 person I met this week for the first time.
Yeah, I met him too. He was a good guy. He definitely wears tank tops more than me, because I was debating going back to the hotel to get a sweater if the game started, and this guy's walking around with a tank top. I'm glad I didn't, though. It did warm up pretty nicely.
Yeah. All right, number 3 person I met this weekend, Mary Schneider. Cole Schneider's mom came up and watched the second half of the game with us, her and her lovely family. She was very nice, was rooting for her son, and they were a fun family. So enjoyed meeting Cole Schneider's mom. We took a selfie. I think she put that out there on Twitter. So Mary Schneider, number 3 person I met for the first time.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool to get to meet with parents of some of these kids. And it was senior day for them, so it was a big day for them. I enjoyed watching the game with her and the rest of her crew. Number
2 person I met for the first time, Mike, President Cartwright. Yeah, President Cartwright. Cartwright came over. We shook his hand. Quite a conversationalist, and I'm not quite. I didn't quite get out of him if he was a fan of the show or not. He didn't say he wasn't, so I'm assuming he is. So number 2 person I met this weekend, President Cartwright.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw in one of my observations for later on. President Cartwright must be fun at parties. That guy. Not a very big.
He didn't say a whole lot. He didn't. People tried to draw some conversation out of him. He didn't say a whole lot. I mean, he's a man of academia. Mike, maybe he just wasn't into the debauchery of the alumni tailgate. And the number 1 person I met for the first time this week, and of course, it has to be our friend Nelson, longtime listener of the show. He's been literally listening, I think, since the first episode. Sends us messages, tells us things we did well, things he wants to see us talk about, and he actually donated a new artifact that will debut this Thursday on our live show. An artifact he donated that will now be part of my backdrop. So number 1 person I met for the first time this weekend is Nelson.
It's been a long time coming for us to meet Nelson. I was supposed to meet him 2 years ago at the War on I-4 when he brought his garden gnome. What was the name again?
Ohana.
Ohana, that's right. And I never got to. So it took 2 years later. We finally got to meet him. Hung out with him for a little while there at the pregame tailgate.
Yep.
Good dude. Yeah, I knew you were going to leave some people out. Remember we met Brandon Nitro?
Brandon Nitro. Yeah. Well, Brandon, it's a good call. Yeah.
He said we were a lot taller in person than he thought we'd be.
He's not wrong. Yeah.
That was cool.
Brando Nitro. Yeah.
And a couple other people that came over and said they enjoyed the show, which I liked too.
Yeah.
So.
Top 5.
Good list.
There you go. Thanks. Thank you.
I've got another top 5 list.
Oh my God, we're just doing these now. Okay. what do you got? Bring it on.
I got 2 more.
Bring it on.
I'll make this one quicker.
Okay.
Top 5. As you know, Gabriel left prematurely here.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he left a little premature.
Goodness.
PE, premature exit here.
There
so I got top 5 premature exits at UCF.
Oh boy.
Number 5.
I'm scared.
Rashad Perriman.
Okay.
Rashad Perriman, 2014. After I forget which edition of the bowl it was in Tampa. I think it was the Bitcoin Bowl, actually, in 2014. NC State game. And we thought maybe he'd come back for another year. He left, and along with it, the rest of our offense, because in 2015 we couldn't score.
That's fair.
Number 4, Gabe Davis.
Leading
up to the 2019 season. He had one more year left in him. Decided to go to the NFL early, took it, and he's doing well with the Bills right now, so good for him. He made the right move.
Yeah.
Number 3, Blake Bortles. 2013. A guy that he wins the Fiesta Bowl. If he comes back in 2014, I think we could go undefeated that next year. But he was going to be the number 3 overall pick. You can't blame him for leaving early. But who knows what would have happened that next season. Number 2, 24K in 2007, leaves early. Right before the bowl game against Mississippi State. He says he's coming back, and we play the game, and then the next day he says he's out. So, too many. O'Leary handed him the ball like 7,000 times that season. Couldn't really blame him.
It's a lot.
Taking a
It's
big
a lot,
toll.
by the way.
Yeah, it was a lot of carries. And the number 1 premature exit, Mackenzie Milton, 2020. If he would have stayed, he would have been here for this season. And who knows if he would have been playing the whole year, the way things worked out. But it's a shame the last play he ever played for us was that time he got hurt in Tampa.
Yeah.
We would love to see him in the black and gold one more time.
That's a fair top 5. I was scared where that was going to go, and luckily it stayed in the right lane here, Mike. I just have an honest question for you and for everybody out there, really. How bad is Riker Casey?
Yeah, he must be terrible.
I mean, Mike, he can't take a swing. I mean, geez. Oh.
I mean, we've gone the whole year now.
I mean, at least after a miss. I mean, what's Gus got to lose? Trot Riker out there. What do we got? I mean, come on.
Colton Boomer next year.
Boomer,
right? That's
yeah.
his name?
Yeah, Boomer Sooner.
Sounds like he can kick. Bo Nix, UCF.
Oh.
Collision.
Oh, you think? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if him and Gus got along towards the end, though. That's interesting. Obviously, Bo Nix rumored to be considering his options at Auburn. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo. So maybe changes afoot there at Auburn again. Maybe Bo would think about it. I don't know if those two got along really well, but he would be interesting prospect to come in. I'm not sure if he would be in that Brandon Winbush-esque phase where you're like, hey, a big name, ooh. But definitely something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think we got to look at anybody. And Spencer Rattler's going to be out there. Who knows what other quarterbacks will be available.
Well, Mike, I know who is available. That is Addison, and she is back for another week. This time, obviously, we were at the game, so she was able to chronicle my my exploits standing right next to me. So, Addison, bring your little notes over here, if you don't mind. Get a little closer to the microphone. Say hello to all the good people out there.
Hi.
Did you get recognized a lot? Was anybody talking to you about your top 5 list while you met some of these fine people this weekend?
Yes, actually.
All right, so Addison is now becoming the biggest star on the Sons of UCF show. So this is top 5 things my dad said during the Cal game. Addison, what do you got?
Okay, so I actually have 6.
Do you understand how the game works? All right, well.
You gotta go on.
All right, you know what? She's calling an audible. I'm with her. All right, what do you got?
Number 6 is have fun in Ole Miss, Dylan.
To be fair, I said that before the news of the transfer broke. I think I did say that at some point when he didn't show up on the field on Friday. I did say have fun at Ole Miss, Dylan. So I need credit for that. Somebody credit me that. All right, number 5.
God, those uniforms are ugly.
Yeah, those Cows uniforms just weren't doing it for me. I don't know what's going on there, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the slime. They look like they're sponsored by Nickelodeon. So.
They sure did. All right, that's the number 4 thing I said during the game.
Gus, I swear to God if you don't call a good play.
I'm not quite sure when I said that exactly. It sounds like something I might say. And it was probably somewhere in that the doldrum of a second half where we couldn't seem to move the ball. But that sounds about right. I feel bad about that.
You probably said that a few times.
Yeah, I probably did. All right, number 3.
I'm sure Amari Johnson is a good person, but every time we give him the ball, something bad happens.
I mean, he seems like a good kid, Mike, but I feel like every time we run that end around, we end up losing 3 or 4 yards, a couple of fumbles here and there. He seems like a really nice kid, but yeah, good things don't always happen.
No, I mean, go back to last year when he tried to return the punt against BYU. We
Mhm.
got dismantled.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the play that changed around this entire season was in
Off the
Louisville
shoulder
when the
pad,
ball
yeah.
was off his shoulders,
Yeah.
and a few other times this year too.
All right, Addison. Number 2 thing I said during the game.
I need a new hobby, knitting something.
Yeah, knitting, something like that. I need a new hobby, Mike. That was a gut wrenching game towards the end there. It's supposed to be fun. It was stressful.
But that's what makes us feel alive, though.
Is it though?
The games where we just blow teams out against Temple and Bethune, you don't feel a life there. When there's a chance you can lose in the last second to the Cows, I never felt more alive.
I'm fairly certain I picked you up and bear hugged you, and then I also picked up one of the Mary Schneider's entourage guys that I don't know, and I picked him up and bear hugged him too. I don't know who that guy was though. He seemed like a nice guy though. All right, and number 1 thing I said during the game was
Mike made a friend.
Mike made a friend. That's right. You actually made some friends, Mike. There were some, 16, 17-year-old kids standing next to you for the first half, and it seemed like you guys were cutting it up.
I made a lot of friends, and half of them I don't remember.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Before the game at Burger U, I was helping some kid out. That he was trying to strike it up with some chick, and I try to do a little wingman with him, and then I guess a couple of other kids during the game. After the game, I don't know who else I met, but good times.
Yeah, all right. Addison's top 5, which is actually 6 list. Thanks, Addison, for coming back again for another week.
All right, is my turn then?
Oh, sure, why not?
I got another top 5 myself.
You've got another top 5.
Dylan Gabriel.
Okay, here we go.
Gabriel never did while he was here.
This is the top 5?
Winning conference championship.
Okay. Is that number 5?
No, but I got the top 5 quarterbacks that did win conference championships here at UCF.
Oh, okay. A plot twist.
Number 5, Justin Holman,
Okay.
2014.
Yeah.
Wins it on the last-second Hale Perryman play to have a share of the conference title. He's only number 5 because if he wasn't for that game against UConn, we would have been undefeated in the conference. He'd be a little bit higher on this list, but a very good performance that season.
Nice kid, nice guy. We had him on the show. Easy to root for Justin Holman. Yep.
Number 4, Kyle Israel, winning our first ever conference championship in 2007 against Tulsa. It seems like we haven't beat Tulsa since then.
I think
we
we
maybe
have.
have 1 win against them. Yeah, I think we beat them once at home somewhere in there. But that was the first one. You always remember your first, right? That was a great time.
Okay, all right.
Number 3, quarterback to win a conference championship, Jeff Godfrey,
Okay.
2010. One of the best freshman seasons we've seen at a quarterback, and finished it off with a win against SMU at home to win the conference, and goes on to beat Georgia in the Liberty Bowl. Number 2.
Fun fact, the first player we ever interviewed on the show, Jeff Godfrey.
That's right. And then we try to get him back on the live
one of
show.
only 3 players that we've promoted that never actually came on the show a second time. So there's that.
Number 2, Blake Bortles,
Okay.
2013, undefeated in conference. Didn't have to play in a championship game, but did win the conference championship outright with an undefeated season. And the number 1 quarterback to win a conference championship at UCF, you guessed it, Mackenzie Milton against the Cows, 2017, one of the greatest games ever played.
That was one of the greatest games ever played. Mike, speaking of greatest, I'm being told, this has never happened in Sons of UCF history. I'm being told Addison has walked back in the room. She has a second top 5 list that she's prepared, Mike. I don't know what to get here. She's now got multiple top 5 lists. Addison, come back over here. What are you handing me here? A piece of paper. Oh, boy. Well, this is top 5 things UCF Mike said during the game. So, lest you forget, you were also near Addison. She's got her notepad out. She's taking notes. First of all, Addison, are these words you're allowed to say that I'm not going to be mad about?
Yes.
Okay, so there's that. So, all right, so there's no
Very
words on this paper that I'm going to be upset about. Okay, I'll take that. I don't know where we're going here. All right, so Addison, number 5 thing that UCF Mike said during the game was?
I'm not sure if I closed my tab at Burger U.
That is true. You were uncertain about the tab at Burger U. I assume that got closed eventually?
I opened it when we first got there. And left it open on purpose when we went to the alumni tailgate. Then we went back there. I'm pretty sure I closed it, but then we went to the game. Maybe I wasn't sure during the game. And then we went back, I think, afterwards. I probably opened another one.
Okay.
I saw the charges on my credit card the next day. So there was 3 different sets of tabs there at Burger Eat.
Okay. So we're still not sure if you're going to close that. So number 4 thing UCF Mike said during the game was?
Spin, spin, spin. No, not you.
Spin, spin, spin. No, not you. Do you recall when that happened, Mike?
I remember this. Yes, yeah. So your son was given the duty of handing out the Sons of UCF flyers, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
And I was trying to show him how to do it with some flair. I was telling him different ways to do it. You can go behind the back, boom, slam him on the table. You do a little spin around and you slap it on somebody. So I tell him, do a spin and hand it to the guy. He hands it to this guy. And I said, no, spin, spin. And the guy that he handed it to actually spun around.
Yes. Yeah.
And good laughs were had by all.
Yeah. Did he actually get a flyer, though?
Yeah, he handed him the flyer and he spun around. And I don't know what to do with it.
Feels like, yeah, well, that's fair. Feels like a success for us. All right, the number, what was his number 3 thing UCF Mike said during the game was?
He looks like an idiot.
I could have said that about anything.
I know.
What was I talking about?
I know. I believe, Addison, keep me honest in this, I believe you were talking about Gus Malzahn on the platform.
He does look like an idiot.
So, what was it?
Oh, man. I just wish he would have been in the booth or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just looks weird.
All right, number 2 thing UCF Mike said during the game was?
Where are my sunglasses? And that was said while it was dark outside.
You couldn't find your sunglasses for a long time there, and when the game had ended, we were in the concourse, and then you were like, "Where's my sunglasses?" So, did you ever find
probably
those?
in my pocket, I would think.
I believe they were in your
I must
pocket.
have had them because when you start off tailgating during the day and it's sunny and you're wearing them all day, and then it turns into night.
Yeah.
I put them in my pocket, but I guess didn't feel them in there. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I gave them to somebody, your wife, to hold. I don't know. But I found them because I know the next day when I drove home, I wore them the whole way.
All right, mystery solved. He had his sunglasses. And Addison, number 1 thing UCF Mike said during the game was?
Saddle up, partner.
Saddle up, partner.
Was this to somebody just hanging out with us?
I think so. Yeah, I believe that was to the 17-year-old kids who walked up and they wanted to stand next to you, and you invited them over and told them to saddle up, partner. I believe is how that went.
They were in for a ride. They didn't know what they were getting into.
They did not know. Yeah.
With us.
This is like a 6 top 5 list. Addison, thank you for your diligence on these. I don't know if UCF Mike knew that he was going to be monitored this closely.
No, I told Addison to keep track of how many people recognized us during the day. Mm-hmm. But I was keeping a running count until about 4, and then I stopped. I don't know
Okay.
what the actual number was.
I don't think, Addison, do you have a final tally on the amount of people that recognized Mike and I during the day?
No, because I told him it was a stupid idea.
No, because I don't know if you heard. Do you want to share that with everybody?
No, because I told him it was a stupid idea.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right from both of you on that one. All right, Addison, thank you for your service here today on the top 5 list. Mike, do you have any more observations? I got a few more if you don't.
I have one more.
Okay.
DG the brand is now banned on this show.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about this guy anymore.
Okay.
Enough is enough.
I got 2 more. Mikey Keene, whatever you do, take some advice from your good friend Adam here. Please don't start a sock line. Whatever you do, start whatever other line you want. Just don't start a sock line. It doesn't end well. And Mike, the last thing I have is
or fanny packs or
air freshener. Yeah, just stay away from merch in general. I gotta hand it to Gus Malzahn, Mike. He literally saved that trick play on special teams for 12 games and 3 quarters. I gotta hand it to him. He was waiting, and finally we broke out that trick return play at the end there. Gus Malzahn, definitely a man who can hold his water because he waited for a while on that one.
Perfect timing on that play too. We needed it exactly when it happened.
Yeah,
so, very nice.
All right, those are this week's UCF observations, highlighted by multiple top 5 lists, including Addison with a world record 2 top 5s, and one that was actually a top 6. So I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I could have added a 6th one on one of mine too, but
yeah,
the only guy I didn't mention that won a conference championship, only started in the conference championship game, was Daryl Mack. At least there's 6 guys that have done it. Nobody's ever done it twice. And as we know, the guy we're not going to talk about anymore never did it while he was here at UCF.
Well, again, Addison just makes up her own rules for the top 5. I can't control that. I have 0 control over my children, Mike. But what I do control is that I think we'll take a quick pause here and we'll come back with, I don't know, maybe picks, maybe cows. Who knows? This show's off the rails. Just stick around. We're the Sons of UCF.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mahajri, and in my spare time, when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on!
All right. If they play him, Mike's going to pick him. And he's going to do that in a second, Mike. Before we do that, though, there's a lot going on in this week's show. And we want to make sure we saved a little bit of time to talk about the big basketball game that was played on Saturday, and even a little bit about the game that's coming up here this upcoming week, Mike. Saturday, we welcomed the Oklahoma Sooners to Addison Financial Arena. And obviously UCF coming in 4-0 was a really big-time opponent. Nice crowd at the arena. They filled in nicely as the game went on. UCF hung tough, and there were some swings in the game, of course, but unfortunately, our first loss of the year, 65-62, goes to the bad guys, Mike. Oklahoma comes into Orlando and comes out with a victory. Who did you like from what you saw in the game? Who impressed you? Was there somebody that kind of stood out to you?
Dylan, I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Deon Green.
Who?
Deon Green Jr. was shooting the ball nicely. Him and Perry, the two high scorers in this game, hitting threes. The one thing that we didn't see was Isaiah Adams much. I think he only played 6 minutes in this game. Is he in the doghouse, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny talked a little bit about it at his presser earlier today. I'll probably run on our live show on Thursday. But basically said Isaiah's good. This is a new team is kind of the way he phrased it. This is a new team, and he's playing with a bunch of new guys. I don't know if I believe that as much because it's very much the same team except for Mbake and Ty Freeman and Darius Johnson. But either way, I mean, he certainly is struggling. He tried to be aggressive at times, Mike. He airballed a three pretty badly. He just looked out of sorts, out of rhythm. And, I don't know if it's just one of those things where he's in a slump and has to figure out a way out of it. I don't know if he's in the doghouse as much as maybe Dawkins is trying to protect him from, going into a further and further slump.
Isaiah Adams, transfer portal.
Yeah, collision course. Yeah.
But we were down 10 points in the second half of this game, and it made a nice comeback. Green hits a couple threes. It's a 4-point game. We get it to 4. We get it down to 3. Have the ball with a chance to tie at the end.
Oh, boy.
And I don't know, what was it? Was it Tony Johnson?
Tony Johnson.
Or who?
Yep.
And Tony Johnson played well in this game.
He played fantastic,
he had some moments where he was doing a lot of nice things out there. He had a couple of big shots, but at the end of the game, I mean, we need a 3 to tie. If you're going to drive quickly to get that layup, you got to do it right at the beginning of the possession, right? He's waited too long, had a chance to kick it back out maybe for another shot, and I don't know what he was doing. And we lose the game by 3. Tough loss to a decent team. A game that we could have won. Maybe we feel like we should have won. A couple of long scoring droughts in there. There was a part in the first half where we went a few minutes without scoring. That's the things that we were doing last year that kind of crept back in that hurt us in this game. But turnovers too. We turned the ball over 18 times, but Oklahoma turned it over 19 times themselves. So that should have just canceled each other out. A couple of big missed free throws there in the second half.
Perry, missed 2 tough ones at the end there.
Yeah. We were 5 of 8 from the line, but 2 of them really hurt there late. And they out-rebounded us, 26-23. So that's, in short, how we lost this game. We had our chances, and I think we'll be okay going forward. I don't think anybody anticipated us going undefeated. So we got the loss out of the way, and now we got to keep moving.
Yeah, a couple of things from being at the game that it was easy to observe. I think, obviously, UCF's at its best when we can get out and run the floor and, we can get on the break. And Oklahoma did a nice job of making us play half-court offense, which, to your point, is not our strong suit. And we got kind of bogged down trying to move the ball. And I think that attributed to a lot of our slow start is, who is that guy who's going to break the defense down? Deon Green obviously is our best shooter. Can we get the ball in his hands? If we have Adams out there, if you have CJ Walker out there, those guys aren't really threats to shoot. If not, you've got one of the Johnsons or Darius Perry trying to break a guard down off the dribble, and that's not always a great shot. So Oklahoma did a nice job of limiting our ability to get out on breaks and forcing us to play half-court offense, which I think took some time for UCF to figure out. If you notice, we made our runs when we had a chance to kind of get out and run a little bit. Secondly, they just had more size than we did down low, and you could see Johnny trying to figure out a way to match that. You saw the Sean Mobley minutes. Sean Mobley got in there, played 9 minutes, which he hasn't played that much all this season. But you saw that there was there was definitely a size advantage for Oklahoma, and Johnny was trying to figure out how to best counteract that. He had some 3 guards for a while there to try to make him chase some guys, but I think they had some length in the front court that caused problems. And they were a good defensive team. Their coach was a crazy person. He was like yelling all over the place. He was stomping on the court. He definitely seemed like he had way too many Red Bulls before the game. But UCF, to your point, was right in at the end. I don't know what Tony Johnson was thinking. I assume he was just hoping maybe he'd get fouled on the way to the hoop or something. But that unfortunately did not happen. So we came up short on that one. But it was a good fight and a good game. And now we go to Auburn on Wednesday, Mike. We play the Tigers. Obviously, we beat them at home last year. So who knows what to expect there. But hopefully, at least Johnny and the staff have some things that they can look at and maybe unlock some things offensively. You mentioned it, Deon Griffin Jr., leading scorer with 17. Perry chipped in, I think it was 16. So overall, you've got to find more scoring. Nobody else on UCF in double digits outside of those 2 guys. So you kind of need that third consistent score. I think you're going to get Perry and Green in double figures. Brandon Mahan was only 2 of 6 from the floor. C.J. Walker only took 3 shots. And then you mentioned Isaiah Adams only took 2 shots. Ty Freeman had 7 points. You're going to need that third scorer if we're going to continue to be consistent as an offensive team.
Yeah, that's what we need. Mahan's been cold here to start the year. Isaiah Adams, we've expected more out of. One of those 2 guys gets hot here, we'll be all right. We got to shake this one off. And Auburn is a big game. And I think now they're ranked number 21. It's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. They lost the game to UConn, a high-scoring game, 115-109. But in their last game, they beat Syracuse up pretty good, 89-68. So this would be a big win for us. This would be a quad 1 win on the road against the top 25 team. This is a resume builder. You got to go in there and play these guys tough, see if we can come out of there with a win. That'd be a good start to this season. I would sign up for that right away, 5-1 with a big top 25 win. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, after that, the schedule softens into the weekend. Bethune-Cookman, and then a whole week off before North Carolina A&T. A rare sort of early year conference game at Temple. And then we're down in South Florida near Christmas time, Mike, for the Orange Bowl Classic against Florida State. So a nice stretch of games from UCF. You would think that at least 2 or 3 winnable ones in here. And we kept saying we've got to win sort of the big 5 games, right? We circled 5 games: Miami, Oklahoma, Auburn, Florida State, and Michigan. I think we had wanted to win 3 of those 5. I think you and I said we'd feel good at that. Obviously, at this point, we are now 1-1. So our next chance is Wednesday against Auburn. And then obviously we look ahead to Florida State and Michigan. But overall, it was a good atmosphere, Mike. My first time actually in the Edition Financial Arena. Nice crowd on hand there. They got into it for a little while. The student section filled in a little bit towards the end. People were kind of into it, so it was definitely a good experience. Good game to see. There were some runs back and forth, and it was certainly down to the wire. So it was definitely a good experience. Glad I had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, how would you like the Black and Gold Club?
Seltzer was available. That was probably my first thought. We had really good seats. We had seats like right at midcourt, so that was fantastic. Kind of hamstrings you from being able to get up and get another seltzer or go down and use the restroom. But I've said this a million times on the show. This basketball was kind of my first love as a sport, so it was good to get back in the gym. And game goes by quickly. It's a lot of action packed. It's not like football where you kind of got 40 seconds in between plays to figure stuff out. So definitely the pace of it was good. Enjoyed the seats. I would definitely sit there again if there's an option to do that. So maybe we'll head up to another game at some point here this season, and maybe we'll sit in that same spot. Who knows?
I didn't check the schedule. Is there a game the same weekend as the Hula Bowl game?
There is. It is at the Cows, though.
All right.
At the Cows.
All right. Well, I'm sure there's another weekend where you can make something out of it here. And the Michigan game, I don't know if that falls on the weekend or not.
Michigan,
there'll be some big conference games.
Michigan's the Thursday night. It's the night before New Year's Eve, so that's probably going to be a tough ticket per se. I think for me, I'm going to look at some of these Saturday games. I mean, not a great Saturday slate, but this is something where I could, probably throw the kids in the car, head down there, see the game, and get back before the night's over. So you got some Saturday tilt coming up with Tulsa and Tulane throughout the year. Houston's a Saturday, but it's a night game. So we'll see. I definitely want to get back up to at least 1 or 2 more games.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about basketball. They're 2-hour games, basically.
Yeah.
So you can go there, and if you want to do something else in town, you still have time to do that later that night if you wanted to go to the park or go out to eat or whatever. So, or you just want to make it back home. It works out that way too. We
will certainly check that out, Mike. Let's transition now into the picks. So, like we said on the show last week, there were this is really the final week, Mike. I think we can call the winner of the picks segment because I don't think there's enough room for the second place person to catch up, Mike. So we've been doing a season-long tournament in an app called Pool Tracker, and the winner is going to get a Citronaut hoodie, which I'm pretty sure I still have in that box that's sitting next to me right now, and maybe a Sons of UCF hat if we can unearth that. But I think we can call the winner, Mike. Can we make it official? Are you ready to call this thing over? Stop the count.
SJB 43. Congratulations with a record of 55-42. He has a 3-game lead on Brando Nitro.
Whoa.
Finished in second place.
Nice, Brando.
52-45.
Yeah.
Tied with Eric Lopez at 52-45. And Jay Blow 38387. A valiant effort come from behind there for Jay Blow. Brando Nitro came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And finished in second. But yeah, with only 2 games left, we got the conference championship game this week and then the Army-Navy game. That's it. No more American Conference games after that. SJB 43, who has not revealed themselves to us. We don't know who you are. So if you want to win, if you want these actual prizes, you need to tell us who you are. Send us a message on Twitter.
I did see
Facebook.
He's in the dungeon. So I saw his handle over the weekend in the dungeon. So you may want to hit him up at the dungeon.
And so is his name SJB 43 in the dungeon too?
It is.
Wow. This is not a coincidence, I'm thinking. So we'll send him a message, see what he says. As for the guys here on this show, I went 47-50 during the regular season. It was worse. I kind of pulled back here in the last few weeks. You only have a 2-game lead on me, so it's possible I could still tie you. You're 49-48. If we go opposite ways in these 2 games and I win and you lose, we'll finish even. Poor Trace, though. Distant third among the Suns. 43-54, 11 games under 500. Another year where I beat Trace at least. So I got that going for me. On my picks from the show last week, I went 2-1. I won the Navy Temple game. I won Tulane and Memphis. The one game I lost was Houston and UConn, which they were favored by 32.5. I believe they won by 28. So 2-1, and I don't have my notes from last week, so I can't tell you my overall record. I wanted to say I was 16-19-1 if I'm remembering right. So if that's true, with the 2-1, I'm 18-20-1. So right around 500, close to 500 on the show picks and the pool tracker. Not good, but not horrible. If I was betting
good.
$10 on each of these games, I'd only be down $20-30. So
okay,
not bad for the season-long entertainment that I got. Not as good as a couple seasons ago. Or last year I won the whole thing on the pool tracker. I think the first year we did these, I had a pretty good record on my show picks. I kind of flip-flop. I have a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. This is considered a bad year for me, but right around 500. But I still got 3 picks here for this week, championship weekend. You want to get into them now?
Let's do it. We have nothing else to do.
All right, game 1. Iowa plus 10.5 against the Michigan Wolverines. The Big Ten championship. Where's this game? In Indianapolis, I believe, right?
It is. That's correct.
The Hawkeyes had a come-from-behind win this past week against our friend Scott Frost in Nebraska, 28-21. And again, they were down, I believe, 21-6 late. And their defense has not allowed 30 points to anyone all season long. They had a couple ugly losses in the middle of the year to Purdue and Wisconsin, but they've won 4 straight and against weaker division teams, Northwestern, Illinois, Nebraska, Minnesota. But here they are in the championship game with a chance to win it all. against Harbaugh and the Wolverines, finally, who have broke through against Ohio State this past week. An impressive victory. You know what that was, right? A statement game.
Man, yeah.
Statement game against Ohio State. Beat them up pretty good, 42-27. They only have one loss on the season, a 37-33 loss to Michigan State in a game where they blew a lead in the second half of that game. Michigan's covered the spread in 10 of 12 games this season. I believe they will take care of business here. They see the finish line. They can make the college football playoff for the very first time with a win here. They got 10.5 points to cover. I think they'll pull it off. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think maybe they tack on a touchdown late. They win something like 27-10. And Michigan, your Big Ten champions, will punch their ticket to the college football playoff.
Yeah, that feels about right. I mean, Iowa doesn't have much by way of offense. Michigan just dominated Ohio State. They ran the ball basically 4 yards at a time and seemed to take control of that game. Their defense played lights out. I think, to your point, Harbaugh sees the finish line now. He slayed the Ohio State Dragon, and everyone's kind of been riding him for his 6 years at Michigan that he couldn't do it, couldn't win the big one. He's on the doorstep of the Final Four. I think he seals the deal. I'll give it to Harbaugh.
Yep, and then once he gets in, who knows what he's capable of. But
that's fair.
Good for him. Good for him. He finally did it. He looked like he was going to come in and it was going to be him and Ohio State every year was what we thought. But really, Ohio State had just dominated ever since he's been in there, and now he's got his shot to finally pull it off. Let's see if he can do it against Iowa.
Yeah.
Game number 2, our future conference, the Big 12. I had to pick this one because of that. Oklahoma State -5 against Baylor. And the Cowboys are coming off a thriller in Bedlam this past week to punch their ticket into this game. Their only loss was by 3 points at Iowa State. They beat Baylor earlier this year, 24-14, back on October 2nd. And the Bears since then have won 7 in a row. Oklahoma State looking to win impressively because they need to impress the college football playoff. They still have a shot to get in this thing. I'm still not convinced they won't jump them over Cincinnati if they look good beating Baylor here. They may not need it if Alabama loses. If Alabama loses to Georgia, Oklahoma State may find their way in the playoffs themselves. I expect a high-scoring affair here in this one, something like 44-36, but I think the Cowboys pull it off. Mike Gundy, he's a man. I think he's like 50 now. Gets his team to win the Big 12 and very possibly finds themselves also in the college football playoff. Give me Oklahoma State -5.
Yeah, I think that's the right play. Their defense is playing really well, although you did not see that on this play. Baylor's defense is playing really well as well. I'm gonna go Oklahoma State here just because I want to see the chaos. Because if Oklahoma State is the one-loss Big 12 champ, I want to see what that does to the playoff. I want to see what that means for Cincinnati. So give me Oklahoma State only because I'm selfish and I want chaos.
Yeah, and then you'd have Oklahoma State also in a debate against Notre Dame, right? They'd have one loss also.
Well, who knows now? I mean, Brian Kelly's leaving. Who knows what Notre Dame will do? But yeah, in theory, if they win out, what that will look like, I just want to see the chaos. And again, I'm not a pro Cincinnati to the playoff guy, so the more chaos that's there to kind of make it interesting down the stretch, the better off I think it is.
Yep, you have a one-loss Oklahoma State, a one-loss Michigan, a one-loss Notre Dame, and an undefeated Cincinnati. Only 2 of them can get in. Who are you taking? If Alabama can beat Georgia, those are 2 spots. You got 2 spots for the other 4 teams.
Yeah.
You would think Cincinnati over Notre Dame, but Oklahoma State over Cincinnati. Oklahoma State having beat Oklahoma now this past week, and now if they beat a top-ranked Baylor team.
Yeah.
These resume lovers. Yeah.
Well, if Alabama loses, all bets are off at that point, right? Because then you have that 4th spot opened up. So what do you do at that point? But if Alabama wins, I think that gets really interesting for Cincinnati because They got to take care of business. Houston's not. I don't know if you're picking that game next, but Houston's a pretty good football team, so they got to take care of business. There's going to be some rumors swirling around them right now with Brian Kelly going to Notre Dame and Luke Fickell, a devout Catholic. Is he going to go back home to I guess the prestigious Catholic university in the country? So there could be some rumors going on there. So Cincinnati's got to look in front of them too. But it'll be fascinating. So I'm going to go Oklahoma State though. Give me the chaos. Give me all the chaos you got.
All right. Well, you got ahead of me a little bit. Game number 3, Cincinnati minus 10.5 against Houston, the American Athletic Conference Championship game for the 3rd year in a row. Cincinnati Bearcats in this game. They lost to Memphis a couple years ago. They won it last year. Here they are again. And the Houston Cougars, with the softest schedule I've ever seen in my life to get into this game, they lose to Texas Tech in the opener, 38-21. You know their other 3 out-of-conference games?
UConn was 1.
Yeah. Rice, UConn, and Grambling State.
Surprised that. Wow. How'd they survive that slobber knocker?
And then you pair that up with not playing UCF, not playing Cincinnati, getting Memphis and SMU at home. The easiest schedule you can ever find. It's no wonder that they've only lost 1 game and they're undefeated in conference. Their only nice win is that SMU game, and they needed a Mike Hughes-esque kick return at the end to win it at home. Meanwhile, Cincinnati has been battling themselves the last month and a half, it seems. I'm trying to impress the committee all year long. They had a 4-week stretch in there where they did not cover the spread against anybody. And I'm talking about Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, and the Cows. Couldn't cover against any of those teams. But they've won comfortably the last 2 games against SMU and East Carolina. Another team that can see the finish line here ahead of them. I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a close game in the first half. And I think the Bearcats start pulling away there in the second half like they've done a few times this year. The sad thing is, for them, is the committee even going to watch this game? Is anybody going to watch this game? Because you know what else is kicking off at the same exact time as this game, 4 o'clock on Saturday? That's right, you guessed it. Prairie View A&M versus Jackson State, the SWAC championship. Panthers versus Tigers. Throw out the record books.
It just means more.
Everybody's going to be watching.
Yeah, it just means more. Yep.
It means more in the SWAC. Oh, and also Alabama plays Georgia at the same time. So the committee, are you really telling me they're watching Cincinnati, Houston? They're box score guys on that one. If Cincinnati doesn't win this game by 10 and they squeak by and they win a 4-point game, even if they're winning this game by 20 and Cincinnati and Houston cuts it to a 4-point game there at the end, right? And the committee goes back and looks at it later and says, oh, they barely beat Houston. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State blew out Baylor. Michigan blew out Iowa. I don't know if I'm Cincinnati. You may not be getting in.
Yeah.
They're going to get jumped.
Yeah.
I've been telling you guys this for weeks. They put them in at number 4 last week. Let's see where they have them this week. Let's see where they have these other teams. Oklahoma State is going to be right on their heels. Michigan's going to be over them with the win against Ohio State for sure. Alabama, they need Alabama to lose. And Alabama looks like they could. They didn't look great against Auburn, that's for sure. So if Alabama wins, Cincinnati is in big trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel that the committee is just looking for a reason not to put Cincinnati in, or really any group of 5 team, right? But not to put them in. So whatever that hiccup is, you mentioned a few of them, right? Close game with Houston, another blowout someplace else, really good performance by a team, a Heisman statement situation. I think they're looking for any reason to put Cincinnati outside looking in. And if Cincinnati gives it to them, I think they'll pull the trigger on it. I want to go Houston on this one again just because I'm anti-Cincinnati. But that Cincinnati defense is pretty tough. And while I think Houston can put up some points, I think they wear on you after a while. And they haven't really been tested all year. I don't know if this is really the time to get tested and to be sort of tested tough. But we'll see if Cincinnati and distractions and any of that stuff gets in the way. So I'll probably go Cincinnati with you on this one, but I'd really like to go Houston if I could.
That would be funny if Cincinnati lost this to Houston. I don't know if they will, but a close enough game.
Well,
Maybe enough
to
damage them.
What is Mike Oresco? Who's he handing the trophy to? Because both these schools are leaving. So does he just does he mail them a trophy after the game? Like, how's he going to handle this one?
Is he even going to show up to the game?
Yeah.
That's the question.
He's just going to be like, hey, your trophy's in the parking lot whenever y'all are ready. Just put it by your bus. We'll see you guys next year. I mean, what's that going to look like?
He's going to call in sick. Just like Gus tried to cover for Dylan, saying that he was sick this past week. Oresco may call in on Thursday, say, I'm not feeling well. I don't know if I can make it on Saturday.
I'm returning my DG the Brand merchandise. I'm not going to be able to make it down there for the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot. Who the refs pull for? I guess they'd have to pull for Cincinnati because if Cincinnati gets into the playoffs, that's more money for the American Conference, at least here on the way out. So, conspiracy theorists, if there's a call that goes somebody's way, it'll be Cincinnati's way. Houston may be playing against the refs this weekend.
When in doubt, always follow the money. If you've been following Mike's picks, I don't know if you've made any money this year, but hopefully it's at least been entertaining. SJB43, we will try to find you in the dungeon to let you know that you've won and get you your prize. But coming up next, it's a prize nobody really wants, Mike. So many options this week. I don't know what we're going to do now. Cow of the week. It's next. Don't go anywhere. You don't know what we're going to do. Heck, we don't know what we're going to do.
Okay, sons of UCF, both of you, you are the father.
All right, my cow of the week. I mean, this is probably one of those where we got some options. We know what we need to do here. We actually did this a few weeks ago. Maybe we're already precursoring in this news, Mike. Cow of the week. Something that we don't like or we think is bad. Where do you want to go?
Well, might as well stick with the theme of the show. Now, I promise you this will be the last time we mention him today. Dylan Gabriel.
Hey!
Not just for transferring, but for all the reasons we've discussed earlier. The way this has transpired here at the end, it's gotten ugly. And, you hate to say so many bad things about a kid that you hardly know, really. Or you think he's doing what he thinks is best for himself, but it doesn't look good. All the things we said about him before. So he can be a cow this week for not playing in the rivalry game when you're completely healthy to play because you want to do what's best for yourself. Laying your teammates down, laying them down for the last couple of weeks here. Well, we could have used you out there. We could have used you in a bowl game. But to you, that is a meaningless game too. So wherever he goes, I will not be watching. So
yeah,
I'll see you later. Last time, cow of the week. I never thought I'd come to this, but here we are.
Here we are, Mike. Mike, I have nothing else to add that I haven't already added. My cow of the week, Mike, and I hate to do this to both of them. They're well, at least one of them. I'll actually, you know what? I'm gonna give it to my mom, who's passed away, unfortunately, Mike. But my mom was cow of the week. You know why? Because she didn't tell me to be a goddamn college football coach. Because these guys are making so much freaking money, either moving schools, going to other schools, getting buyouts. Brian Kelly signed a $100 million contract to go to LSU. Lincoln Riley signed over a $100 million contract, and they bought his 2 houses in Oklahoma for over $500,000 more than value. And they're buying him a $6-point-something million house in California. And he's getting used to their private plane. Not to mention when you get fired like Coach O, you walk away with like $30-something million. Gus left Auburn with like $40-something million. Clearly, I'm in the wrong line of work. And I cannot believe that there wasn't some sort of a guidance counselor along my journey of schooling that said to me, hey, go be a college football coach. It's going to be the best thing you'll ever do for your financial life. So for all of you guidance counselors, anybody who was in my life that had the ability to influence my career choices and did not steer me to be a college football head coach, you are a cow of the week.
Man, it's ridiculous the amount of money these guys are getting, huh? $100 million. And then what happens in 4 years when he gets fired? He still gets to get that money, or at least a good chunk of it.
Mike, could you pick Mel Tucker out of a lineup? If Mel Tucker walked in to your house right now with a shirt on that said, I'm Mel Tucker, would you know who the hell he was?
No, and he just got a big extension.
$95 million. $95 million. for one good season.
Yeah.
Charlie Weiss made like $100 million for going like 8-3 one year at Notre Dame.
Mel Tucker just lost like $95 million to nothing last week against Ohio State.
He did $95 million. I don't know where I was in guidance counselor class. I don't know when your parents sit you down as a kid and say, "Son, what do you want to do?" Why nobody steered? I'm getting my kids right now. Addison, who if for this podcast thing doesn't work out, she is in her room hopefully right now designing the perfect sluggo route because I'm going to need her to be a college football coach so I can retire.
Yeah. Starter training now. Exactly. We need to get her in there with Coach Gus. Maybe he can start training her.
I mean, she's been to enough games at this point. I mean, I maybe Aiden, he can be a defensive even a coordinator. I feel like you still make decent enough money. But Brian Kelly's going to get $15 million a year to coach LSU.
Yikes. So that deal is done?
That's done, my friend. He's I'm reading on social media while we were recording. He sent a text message to his players and let them know.
Wow. So what happens if Notre Dame sneaks into the college football playoff? You can't coach them then?
I
guess
it depends on what Notre Dame wants him to do, right? Like, I mean, we saw obviously this happened with Frost, right, where he left us. Billy Napier, the coach that the Gators just hired, I believe he's going to coach the conference championship game for whatever school he's at, Louisiana Lafayette, I think. So I guess it depends.
It's just Louisiana. No.
Is it just Louisiana?
They dropped the Lafayette.
Where'd they go? They dropped it. Did they pick it up? So I guess it's whatever Notre Dame would want. I guess if he offers, do they say yes, sure? Or is it one of those, Frost deals? I have no idea.
I guess you'd be better off taking the guy that's coached you all year. We saw how that worked out for us with Frost, at least for that one game. So it's possible if Alabama loses, and say Oklahoma State loses to Baylor. Notre Dame is one of the only one-loss teams. They may get in there with Michigan and Cincinnati. So who knows?
Yeah,
it's possible. And Cincinnati may be playing with a coach too, because their coach may go to Notre Dame. So,
yeah,
things to get very interesting here.
Yeah, but either way, cow of the week for anybody who did not tell me to be a college football coach.
Yeah. Bad advice you've been given. Whoever told you to be a podcaster.
I have no idea.
Definitely.
I have no idea where the parental influences in my life were to not remind me that I should just figure out how to do a slant and go, and I'll be a millionaire for the rest of my life. But either way, I'm having fun doing the Sons of UCF with you, my friend. And this one has come to an end. It's been a long one. It's been a winding path. We touched on a lot of serious stuff, a lot of things here and there. Probably one of the more memorable episodes we'll ever do, Mike. And we're not done with your content yet. Don't forget, live Thursday night, 8 p.m., Trace Trelko joins this little house party. And, Mike, I can only imagine what we're going to be talking about then.
Yeah, I wonder. Hopefully, some news will break. Maybe we'll get a bowl opponent and location by then. We can talk about some other things.
Well, we will have
an interesting matchup.
Yeah, we will have the Auburn game at that point. We'll know the outcome of the basketball game against Auburn, so we can probably talk about that. Maybe we find an insider to come on. So maybe there's transfer portal news. We'll try not to inundate you with all DG all the time.
All right. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he's gone. He's made his decision. He may have a new school by the time we get together again on Thursday. So
I think he has a new school now as we're recording this, actually, but you never know.
All right. Life goes on. We were here without him before, and we'll move on without him now. I'm on the Gus bus. I trust in Gus to find a good replacement for us. And let's see what Mikey can do here in the bowl game. Maybe he can solidify himself here going into next year. Well,
we will discuss that and all things. He may have left us, but don't you leave us. We're going to be here for you. Thursday night, we'll see everybody live on the internet. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you want to give us a nice review, no one here is going to be mad at you for that. And we can't wait to get this bowl season kicked off. And last year was a crazy year, Mike. We'll see if this year turns out to be any crazier in UCF world. But no matter what it is, we will cover it all for you. So until we talk again, everybody, have a fantastic week. Go Knights.
Charge on.